Picture a world where the road ahead isn't paved with promise, but churns with mud, a path that chews ambition and spits out blisters. Tonight, we're not chasing tales of gallant knights or gilded carriages. No, we're walking alongside Eadric, a peasant from a forgotten village whose life is about to tangle with the raw, unpolished truth of medieval travel. Close your eyes, if you dare, and imagine the creak of a wooden gate, the faint bleat of sheep in the distance, and the heavy air of a world where every step beyond home feels like a wager against fate. Eadric stands at the edge of his village, his heart pounding like a hammer on an anvil, ready to embark on a journey not born of adventure, but of necessity. Eadric's worldly possessions fit in one calloused hand, a loaf of bread so stale it could double as a club, a cloak patched so many times it's more thread than cloth, and a gnarled stick, good for prodding stray dogs or leaning on when his legs betray him. Unlike the nobles with their retinues of servants, sleek horses, and chests bursting with finery, Eadric has no map, no coin, and no shoes to shield his feet from the road's cruel bite. His world is one of bare survival, where the thought of travel doesn't spark dreams of glory, but a knot of dread in the pit of his stomach. For a peasant like him, the village is a cage. Yes, but it's a familiar one, with its sour ale, endless debts, and the same weathered faces he's known since he was a boy. Why leave then? Because sometimes the world doesn't give you a choice. Maybe it's a landlord's threat, his voice sharp as a scythe, demanding payment Eadric can't scrape together. Or perhaps it's a whisper of work in a distant town, a chance to earn enough to keep hunger at bay. To step onto that road is a gamble with hunger and hope, a decision no peasant makes lightly. Most never stray more than a mile from the fields they've tilled since childhood. The village holds everything they know, the creak of the mill, the weight of the priest's sermons, the gossip of neighbors who know your sins better than you do. But when duty or desperation calls, you pack what little you have and pray the road doesn't break you. Eadric hesitates, his bare feet sinking into the cold earth, the village behind him fading into a blur of thatch and smoke. The road stretches out like a serpent, twisting into the unknown, promising nothing but toil. What would you do, dear listener, without a map to guide you, without a coin to buy a crust, without even shoes to guard your souls? Would you take that first step, knowing each one might lead to bandits, wolves, or a ditch that smells of despair? Eadric does. His breath catches, his stick grips tighter, and he moves forward, one uncertain step at a time, into a world that doesn't welcome the likes of him. And so, the journey begins, not with a fanfare, but with the squelch of mud underfoot. The road is a gauntlet of uncertainties, each mile a question mark etched in dust and pain. What lies ahead for Eadric? A warm barn, a cold field, or something far worse? Let's follow him, through the muck and the fear, to find out. Eadric stands at the heart of his village, the familiar weight of its thatched roofs and smoky air pressing against him like an old friend reluctant to let go. The morning is gray, the kind that clings to your bones, as he faces his family for a farewell that feels more like a reckoning. His mother, weathered like an oak battered by a storm, her face carved with lines from years of toil, clasps his hand. Her grip is frail but fierce, her eyes brimming with unspoken fears. "Don't let the wolves make a meal of you," she murmurs, half serious, half hoping her words might ward off the world's cruelties. His younger siblings, a scrappy pair with dirt-streaked faces, hover nearby, their teasing lighter but no less sharp. "Mind the beast, Eadric," his brother snickers, "or they'll have your stick for supper." His sister tugs at his cloak, trying to swipe the stale bread from his pocket, with a grin that hides her worry. The village square, usually alive with the clatter of chores, feels hushed, as if even the chickens sense the gravity of his departure. Eadric turns toward the small stone church, its crooked steeple a beacon of last hopes. Inside, the priest, Father Alfric, waits, his robes as threadbare as Eadric's dreams. The air smells of damp stone and wax, and Alfric's eyes narrow as Eadric approaches, seeking a blessing for the road ahead. "May the Lord shield you from bandits, fever, and the devil's own tricks," the priest intones, his voice gravelly, like stones grinding in a mill. He extends a wilted carrot, its green top drooping like a flag of surrender, a dubious token of goodwill. "The path is a river of mud and misfortune," Alfric warns, his tone more weary than warm. "Tread lightly, lad, and don't tempt fate with foolishness." Eadric nods, clutching the carrot as if it might hold some hidden power, though he suspects it's more likely to rot than to save him. The ritual complete, Eadric steps back into the village square, the weight of his family's gazes heavy on his shoulders. His mother's wave is slow, a gesture that carries the ache of years spent surviving famine and frost. His siblings' laughter fades, replaced by a quiet that speaks of their own fears for him. The village, with its creaking mill and gossiping well, has been his entire world, a stifling, predictable cage, but one he knows. Leaving it feels like tearing a page from a book he's read his whole life. Yet, as he grips his stick and adjusts his tattered cloak, a spark of resolve ignites within him. Fear coils in his gut, but so does a stubborn determination to face whatever lies beyond the village's edge. Eadric takes his first steps past the boundary, the earth soft and treacherous beneath his bare feet. The village shrinks behind him, its familiarity fading into a haze of smoke and memory. Ahead lies a road that promises nothing but hardship, each step a test of endurance and will. The journey has begun, and with it, a toll both body and soul will pay. What trials await Eadric on this unforgiving path? Only the road knows, and it keeps its secrets close. The road stretches before Eadric like a beast roused from slumber, alive with the clamor of hooves and curses. Mud clings to his bare feet, each step a battle against the earth's greedy pull. Carts groan past, their wheels carving ruts deep enough to swallow a man's hopes. Stray goats bleat, darting across his path, their eyes glinting with indifference. A knight on a towering steed thunders by, his horse's hooves spraying muck, narrowly missing Eadric, who stumbles aside with a muttered curse. The air is thick with the stench of dung and sweat, a reminder that this road cares nothing for a peasant's dreams. Other travelers, merchants with sour faces, pilgrims muttering prayers, pass without a glance, their world as closed to Eadric as a lord's castle. He grips his stick tighter, its weight his only anchor in this chaotic stream of movement. "Is this worth it?" Eadric mutters to himself, his voice barely audible over the creak of axles. Was the village so bad? The thought gnaws at him, sharp as the hunger twisting his gut. Back home the bread was stale, but at least it was there. The mill's hum was predictable, not like this road, where every turn mocks him with signs he can't read. Crudely carved arrows pointing to towns he's never heard of, like riddles etched by a drunken carpenter. He squints at one, its letters blurred by rain, and wonders if it's leading him to work or ruin. The doubt creeps in, heavy as the mud caking his legs, whispering that he's a fool for leaving the village's familiar misery. His body protests with every step, his feet, unprotected, scream like a kicked hound, each stone and root a fresh torment. Hunger claws at his insides, the stale loaf in his cloak now a taunting memory, too precious to eat yet too small to satisfy. His shoulders ache under the weight of his patched cloak, sodden from a morning drizzle. The road doesn't just test his strength, it mocks his resolve, each mile stretching longer than the last. Eadric's breath comes in ragged bursts, his eyes scanning the horizon for anything to break the monotony of pain. A distant figure, a peddler perhaps or a corpse, sprawls by the roadside, and Eadric wonders if he'll share that fate before nightfall. Then, through the haze of dust and despair, a shape emerges. A barn, its weathered timbers slanting against the sky like a promise half kept. Its roof sags, but it's a roof, a flicker of hope in a world that's offered none. Eadric's heart lifts, though doubt lingers like a shadow. Will the farmer turn him away? Will the barn be a haven or just another trap? He straightens, clutching his stick, and trudges toward it, driven by the faint chance of rest. The road has tested Eadric, body and soul, and it's only the first day. What lies within that barn? Shelter, or just another chapter of hardship? Its rough walls hold secrets, from the scratchy embrace of straw to the judgmental snorts of livestock. For a peasant like Eadric, even a barn's dubious comforts are a prize worth chasing. Let's follow him to see if this rickety refuge offers rest or regret. The sun dips low, casting long shadows across the muddy fields as Eadric approaches a weathered farmhouse, its timbers grayed by years of rain and neglect. His heart thuds like a drum in his chest, each beat a mix of hope and fear as he raises a trembling hand to knock on the door. The wood is rough under his knuckles, and the sound echoes weakly, swallowed by the evening's chill. A farmer opens the door, his face carved with suspicion, eyes narrowing as they size up Eadric's tattered cloak and bare, mud-caked feet. "Please, good sir," Eadric stammers, his voice cracking like dry twigs. "Just a corner of your barn for the night. I've naught but this stick and a crust to my name." The farmer grunts, his breath sour with ale, but there's a flicker of pity in his gaze. "Aye, but don't trouble my beasts," he mutters, jerking his head toward a sagging barn across the yard. Eadric nods, relief washing over him like a tepid stream, though his nerves still hum with caution. Inside the barn, the air is thick with a stench like a dragon's breath, a potent mix of manure, damp straw, and animal musk. The dim light reveals a cluttered world. Bales of straw stacked unevenly, a cow chewing lazily, and chickens scratching in the dirt. Eadric steps carefully, his bare feet sinking into the soft, prickly floor, grateful for any shelter after the road's relentless cruelty. The warmth of the animals wraps around him, a stark contrast to the cold that's gnawed at his bones all day. He finds a corner near a broad-backed cow, its bulk radiating heat like a living hearth. Settling into the straw, he pulls his cloak tight, though it's more holes than fabric. A curious chicken struts closer, its beady eyes glinting as it pecks at his cloak, mistaking a frayed thread for a prize. "Off with you," Eadric whispers, half laughing, shooing it away with a wave, his voice a mix of amusement and exhaustion. He curls up, the cow's steady breathing a strange comfort, though he stays alert, wary of a sudden kick or roll that could crush his weary frame. The straw scratches his skin, and the barn's odors cling to his nose, a reminder that this refuge is no palace. A rustle nearby makes him tense, perhaps a rat or worse, but it's just the chicken again, now roosting with a smug cluck. As Eadric's eyes grow heavy, the barn sounds weave into a restless lullaby. The cow's low rumble, the creak of timbers, the faint skitter of fleas finding new homes on his skin. Sleep comes fitfully, a fragile gift stolen between animal snorts and the itch of unseen pests. This barn, for all its faults, is a small mercy, a shield against the night's sharper dangers, wolves, rain, or bandits who'd take his stick and call it a victory. Eadric's uneasy gratitude settles like dust, holding him together until dawn. But what of the nights when even a barn's rough embrace is out of reach? The open fields wait, cold and unforgiving, ready to test a traveler's resolve in ways a barn never could. The night closes in like a heavy cloak, and Eadric, turned away from a barn by a farmer's scowl, trudges toward a field's edge, his bare feet sinking into the cold, damp earth. The farmer's words still sting. No room for vagabonds. And now the open field is his only refuge. He picks his way carefully, avoiding a minefield of sheep droppings that gleam faintly under the moon's pale gaze. The field stretches wide, its grass swaying in the breeze, dotted with the dark shapes of grazing sheep that pay him no mind. Eadric's stick taps the ground, a feeble guard against the vastness of the night, and his stomach twists with hunger, the stale loaf in his cloak now a distant memory. The road's cruelty lingers in his aching legs, and the thought of lying exposed under the sky sends a shiver through him, sharper than the evening's chill. The air bites at his skin, the night whispering threats in every breeze, rustling grass that sounds like footsteps, distant howls that might be wolves, or just the wind playing tricks. Eadric pulls his tattered cloak tighter, its holes offering little defense against the cold that seeps into his bones. He finds a patch of ground less damp than the rest, near a low hedge that offers a sliver of shelter. Kneeling, he mutters a prayer to St. Cuthbert, his voice barely above a whisper, begging for warmth, for safety, for anything to keep the night's claws at bay. "Just till dawn," he breathes, his words swallowed by the dark. Lying back, he gazes upward, and for a fleeting moment, the stars break through the clouds, tiny sparks of light scattered across the heavens like scattered coins. Their cold beauty pierces his despair, a reminder that even in this harsh world, something endures beyond his suffering. He clings to that thought, small as it is, like a spark in a dying fire. Sleep comes in fits, broken by the rustle of leaves and the occasional bleat of a restless sheep. The ground is hard, the dew soaking through his cloak, turning it into a sodden weight. His body aches, each joint protesting the day's endless march. Fleas, ever present, nip at his skin, and he scratches absently, too tired to care. When dawn finally creeps over the horizon, painting the field in gray light, Eadric stirs, stiff and damp, his breath visible in the chilly air. He rises, wincing as his feet complain, but a quiet pride flickers within him. He's survived the night, a small victory against a world that owes him nothing. He brushes off his cloak, grips his stick, and sets his eyes on the road ahead, knowing the next night might demand even more. The field, for all its hardships, was a known enemy, its dangers open and plain. But what of the forest, where shadows hide sharper threats? A tangle of trees looms in the distance, its silence more menacing than the field's open chill. For a peasant like Eadric, the forest is a gamble with higher stakes, where every snap of a twig could spell disaster. Let's follow him as he weighs the risk of its dark embrace. The forest looms before Eadric like a wall of secrets, its dark branches tangled against the fading light. He steps into its embrace, driven by desperation, seeking shelter where the field offered none. The air grows heavy, thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, and an eerie quiet wraps around him, broken only by the sharp snap of a twig or the cackle of a crow, laughing at his misfortune from some unseen perch. Each sound jolts his nerves, his bare feet treading cautiously over roots that twist like snares. The trees tower above, their shadows pooling like ink, and Eadric's heart races, his stick clutched tightly as if it could fend off the wilderness itself. This is no village lane. The forest is a realm of whispers and threats, where every rustle hints at danger. His mind conjures wolves, their eyes glinting in the dark, or bandits waiting to strip him of his meager possessions. "Just one night," he whispers to himself, his voice a frail thread in the vast silence. "Then I'm gone." The words are a prayer, a plea to survive until dawn. He finds a hollow beneath a gnarled oak, its roots offering a cradle of sorts, though the ground is cold and unyielding. He pulls his tattered cloak tight, its holes mocking his need for warmth, and curls into a ball, eyes darting at every creak. The wind weaves through the branches, a soothing lull that promises rest, but fear keeps his senses sharp. The trees stand as silent judges, their limbs creaking as if passing sentence on his reckless choice to sleep here. A distant howl, wolf or wind, sends a shiver down his spine, and he grips his stick tighter, ready to swing at shadows. Sleep eludes him, his mind a battlefield of imagined terrors. The crow cackles again, its mockery echoing in the dark, and Eadric wonders if the priest's tales of demons in the wild were more than stories. Yet as the hours crawl by, no fangs or blades find him. The wind's song softens, and exhaustion begins to win, pulling him into a shallow, restless doze. When dawn's first light pierces the canopy, painting the forest in shades of gray, Eadric stirs, his body aching, his cloak damp with dew. He's unscathed, a miracle in this haunted place, but exhaustion weighs heavy, his eyes gritty with sleeplessness. Rising, he mutters a vow to avoid forests henceforth, their dangers too steep a price for a night's refuge. The forest's menace has left its mark, but Eadric's survival is a quiet triumph, a testament to his stubborn will. Yet safer havens beckon, places where the night's threats are tempered by stone and sanctity. A churchyard lies ahead, its graves offering a strange comfort. a refuge where the dead keep silent watch and the living might find peace. For a weary traveler like Eadric, the promise of holy ground is a beacon worth seeking. Let's follow him to see if its mossy embrace offers the rest he craves. The twilight air carries a chill as Eadric stumbles toward a churchyard, its low stone wall a faint outline against the gathering dark. Drawn by the promise of quiet sanctity, he steps through the creaking lich gate, its hinges groaning like a weary sentinel. The graves, cloaked in moss, stand in silent rows, their weathered stones etched with names long forgotten. The church looms nearby, its steeple a shadow piercing the sky, and the air hums with a whisper of holy protection, as if the sacred ground might shield him from the night's dangers. Eadric's bare feet tread softly, wary of disturbing the hallowed earth, his stick tapping lightly as he navigates the uneven path. The world feels still here, the chaos of the road muted, replaced by a calm that both soothes and unsettles him. He finds a spot near a gravestone, its surface cold and slick with dew. Settling onto the grass, he pulls his tattered cloak tight, its frayed edges offering little warmth. The stone beside him looms like a silent guardian, and Eadric's thoughts turn to mortality, his breath catching as he imagines the bones beneath. Better cold than buried, he mutters, a grim jest to steady his nerves. The churchyard's peace is a fragile gift, its safety tinged with the eerie weight of the dead. He leans against the stone, his body aching from the day's march, and lets the quiet wrap around him, though his heart still races at the thought of bandits or spirits lurking beyond the gate. The stars above flicker through scattered clouds, their light a faint reminder of something eternal, even if his own life feels perilously small. A rustle breaks his reverie, and Eadric tenses, clutching his stick. But it's no thief, only a priest, his robes brushing the grass as he approaches. The man's face is lined, his eyes kind, but weary. "Rest here, lad, but mind the graves," he says, his voice soft as candlelight. From his satchel, he offers a crust of bread, dry but precious, and Eadric takes it with trembling hands, gratitude swelling in his chest. The small act softens the night's hardness, a reminder that even in this unforgiving world, mercy can flicker like a flame. He nibbles the bread, savoring its faint warmth, and settles back, the priest's presence a quiet balm against his fears. Eadric curls up beneath the lich gate, its wooden roof a meager shield against the dew. Sleep comes in fragments, broken by the hoot of an owl and the itch of grass against his skin. The graves keep their silence, offering neither comfort nor complaint, and he drifts into a bittersweet rest, grateful for the sanctuary yet aching from the cold. At dawn, a monk's broom sweeps close, its bristles hissing against the stone, rousing Eadric with a start. He rises, stiff but alive, the churchyard's strange comfort lingering like a half-remembered prayer. This sacred ground, for all its unease, has spared Eadric the road's sharper cruelties. But what of a refuge with walls and rules, where monks offer shelter under the weight of divine order? A monastery lies ahead, its stone halls promising structure and safety, if Eadric can pass their scrutiny. Let's follow him to see if its solemn embrace offers true respite. The night presses close as Eadric approaches the monastery, its stone walls rising like a fortress against the dark. The gate looms, iron-bound and unyielding, and he hesitates, his bare feet numb on the cold earth. He knocks, the sound swallowed by the silence, and a monk appears, his face sharp as a hawk's, eyes glinting with suspicion. "What brings you here, wanderer?" the monk demands, his voice a low rumble. "Speak true, or are you some chatterbox with dubious motives?" Eadric's throat tightens, but he steadies himself, clutching his stick. "Only a weary traveler, seeking shelter for one night," he replies, his words humble, though his heart races under the monk's gaze. After a long pause, the monk nods, gesturing him inside with a grunt, bound by the ancient rule of hospitality that treats a stranger as kin, if only for a night. The guest hall is a stark refuge, a room echoing with prayers and drafts, its stone floor worn smooth by countless feet. Shadows flicker from a single candle, casting the walls in a dance of light and gloom. Eadric is handed a bowl of thin broth, its warmth a faint comfort, tasting of boiled roots and little else. A bench, hard as the road itself, is his bed, shared with other travelers whose coughs punctuate the quiet. The air carries the scent of damp wool and incense, a reminder of the monk's solemn world. Eadric sips the broth, his hunger dulled but not sated, grateful for the roof overhead, yet wary of the rules that govern the sanctuary. A monk passes, his robes brushing the floor, and pauses to fix Eadric with a stern look. "Keep silent during prayers," he warns, his voice clipped, "lest you disturb the Lord's peace." Eadric nods, cowed by the weight of the monastery's order, feeling like an intruder in this house of devotion. He settles on the bench, his tattered cloak a poor blanket, and tries to rest, the hardness of the wood pressing into his aching bones. The hall is quiet, save for the soft snores of strangers and the distant creak of a door, but Eadric's mind hums with the day's trials, tempered by the faint security of these walls. Sleep comes, shallow and fitful, broken by the sudden swell of chants as dawn stirs the monks to prayer. Their voices rise, a tide of solemn notes that pull Eadric from his dreams. He blinks awake, stiff but rested, the broth and bench a small mercy in a world of hardship. Yet the monks' chants carry a judgment, as if his presence is a blemish on their sanctity. He rises, gathering his stick, humbled by their charity but eager to slip away before their scrutiny sharpens. The monastery's shelter, stern as it was, spared Eadric the night's cruelties. But what of humbler refugees, where stone gives way to wood and faith to pragmatism? Roadside shrines dot the paths ahead, their modest roofs offering a flicker of hope for a traveler like Eadric. Let's follow him to see if these sacred outposts bring rest or merely more trials. The road has worn Eadric down, his bare feet bruised and his spirit frayed, when he stumbles upon a roadside shrine, its silhouette faint against the dusky sky. A weathered statue of Saint Winifred, serene despite the cracks in her stone face, stands as a sentinel of faith, guarding a small alcove carved into the hillside. The shrine is humble, no more than a slab of rock topped with a slanted wooden roof, but it glows with a quiet promise of refuge. Eadric pauses, his breath uneven, drawn to this sacred outpost like a moth to a flame. The air carries the faint scent of wax and earth, and the world feels softer here, as if the saint's gaze might hold back the night's sharper edges. He steps closer, his stick tapping the ground, wary of disturbing the holy silence. He huddles beneath the overhang, the damp stone chilling his back as he presses against it. A single candle, its flame flickering in the breeze, casts a trembling light that dances across the statue's serene features. The roof offers scant protection, leaving his legs exposed to the dew-soaked grass, but the shrine's sanctity wraps around him like a thin cloak, offering a fragile sense of safety. Eadric pulls his tattered cloak tighter, its holes mocking his need for warmth, and feels the weight of his desperation. The road has been merciless, and this small shelter, though exposed to the elements, feels like a gift from a world that rarely gives. He glances at the saint's stone eyes, half hoping for a miracle, half knowing he's alone. Kneeling, Eadric mutters a prayer, his voice a hoarse whisper in the gathering dark. "Saint Winifred, keep me safe," he pleads, muttering hopes to the saint's shadow, his words tinged with doubt, but heavy with need. He asks for protection from bandits, from cold, from the hunger that gnaws like a rat in his gut. The candle flickers, unmoved, and Eadric wonders if his words reach beyond the stone. Exhausted, he curls up on the hard ground, the damp seeping through his cloak, the shrine's overhang shielding his face but little else. Sleep creeps in, uneasy and shallow, broken by the distant hoot of an owl and the rustle of leaves that sound too much like footsteps. Dawn breaks with a chorus of birdsong, their cheerful notes pulling Eadric from his fitful rest. He stirs, his body stiff as the stone behind him, his cloak heavy with dew. The shrine stands unchanged, Saint Winifred's face still serene, and Eadric feels a faint spark of relief. He's alive, unbothered by thieves or beasts. His joints ache as he rises, brushing off the dirt, and he offers a quick nod to the statue, a gesture of thanks for the small mercy of survival. He grabs his stick and moves on quickly, the road calling him forward before the shrine's peace fades entirely. This modest refuge, with its flicker of hope, has carried Eadric through the night. But what of warmer shelters, where firelight and ale tempt the weary? Alehouses line the roads, their hearths glowing with promise, though their comforts come at a price a peasant can rarely pay. Let's follow Eadric to see if their smoky embrace offers rest or merely more longing. Tonight's chill bites at Eadric's bones as he pushes open the door to an alehouse, its warmth hitting him like a glowing haven reeking of barley. Laughter spills out, loud and rough, mingling with the clink of mugs and the crackle of a fire that dances in the hearth. The air is thick with smoke and the tang of spilled ale, the room alive with ruddy faces, merchants boasting of profits, laborers drowning their aches, and a bard strumming a lute in the corner. Eadric's bare feet stick to the floor, his tattered cloak drawing sidelong glances from patrons who see him as little more than a shadow. His stomach growls, the stale loaf long gone, and his empty pockets weigh heavier than ever. Yet the fire's glow pulls him forward, a beacon of comfort in a world that's offered none. He approaches the innkeeper, a burly man with a beard like tangled brambles, wiping a mug with a rag as gray as Eadric's hopes. No coin, no ale, the innkeeper growls, eyeing Eadric's ragged state. But I've a story, Eadric pleads, his voice thin but steady, of a wolf I outran on the road. The innkeeper's eyes narrow, then soften with a smirk. One tale, one night. Make it good, he says, sliding a small mug of ale across the counter. Eadric nods, his heart lifting as he takes the mug, its warmth seeping into his calloused hands. He spins a tale of a narrow escape, embellishing just enough to earn a few chuckles from nearby drunks, securing his place by the hearth for the night. The alehouse is a chaotic world, its floor sticky with spilled ale and littered with straw, the air humming with a symphony of snores and spilled dreams. Strangers slump at tables, their faces flushed, some muttering in drunken sleep, others arguing over dice. Eadric huddles near the fire, the heat a blessed relief to his aching limbs. Though the bench is hard and the crowd's noise keeps rest at bay, he sips the ale slowly, its bitter warmth a fleeting luxury, aware that one wrong move, a spilled mug, a loud word, could see him tossed back into the cold. The fire crackles, casting shadows that dance like ghosts, and Eadric's eyes grow heavy, though his nerves stay sharp, wary of the innkeeper's watchful gaze. Sleep comes fitfully, broken by a drunkard's shout and the creak of the floor. The hearth's warmth cradles him, but the threat of being ousted lingers, a reminder of his precarious place. When dawn's light creeps through the shutters, Eadric stirs, his body warmed but stiff, his heart heavy with resigned acceptance. The alehouse offered a fleeting reprieve, but its comforts are not his to keep. He slips out, stick in hand, before the innkeeper can demand more than a story. The alehouse's fire was a rare gift, but when even that is out of reach, what's left for a penniless traveler? Begging at a stranger's door becomes the final refuge, a desperate plea for a corner by a hearth. Let's follow Eadric to see if kindness awaits, or if the road's hardships persist. The night wraps Eadric in its cold grip, as he trudges toward a modest house, its thatched roof barely visible in the moonlight. His heart pounds like a drum, each beat a mix of desperation and dread as he raises his hand to knock on the weathered door. Through a cracked shutter, a flicker of firelight spills out, a glow promising mercy in a world that's shown him little. His bare feet, blistered and raw from the road, ache with every step, and his tattered cloak hangs heavy with dew. The air carries the faint scent of wood smoke, stirring a fragile hope that someone within might see past his ragged state. He knocks softly, his stick clutched tight, bracing for rejection, but clinging to the chance of kindness. The door creaks open, revealing a farmer's wife, her face worn but soft, her eyes widening at the sight of Eadric's battered feet. "Please, good woman," he murmurs, his voice hoarse. "Just a corner for the night." She hesitates, glancing at his mud-streaked cloak, then sighs, moved by his weary state. "Sleep by the hearth, but leave at dawn," she says, her tone firm yet kind, stepping aside to let him in. Eadric nods, relief flooding him like warmth from a long-lost sun. He steps into the cramped house, the air thick with the smell of stew and straw. A low fire crackles in the hearth, casting shadows across a dirt floor where a few children sleep, curled like kittens. The woman points to a corner near a goat pen, its faint bleats mingling with the fire's soft pops. Eadric sinks to the ground, the warmth of the hearth seeping into his chilled bones. The woman hands him a scrap of stew, a meager portion of barley and roots, but to Eadric it's a feast. He eats slowly, savoring the warmth that spreads through him, feeling human again after days of hunger and cold. The corner is cramped, the goat pen's musky scent sharp in his nose, and straw pokes through his cloak, but the fire's glow and the woman's kindness wrap him in a rare comfort. He watches the flames, their dance a quiet reminder of the life he's fighting to hold on to. The family moves softly around him, their voices low, and Eadric feels both grateful and out of place, a guest who can offer nothing but his thanks. Sleep comes gently, lulled by the fire's crackle and the goat's soft rustling, though the hard floor presses against his aching body. When dawn's first light creeps through the shutters, Eadric stirs, his joints stiff, but his spirit lifted by this fleeting act of mercy. He rises quietly, careful not to wake the sleeping children, and slips toward the door. At the threshold, he pauses, whispering a soft, "God bless you," to the house that sheltered him. Stepping back into the cold, his stick in hand, he carries a spark of gratitude, a reminder that even in a harsh world, kindness can flicker like a flame. This rare generosity has sustained Eadric, but such doors are few. When they remain closed, where does a traveler turn? The marketplace, with its empty stalls at night, offers an unconventional shelter, a place where cunning might secure a corner for rest. Let's follow Eadric to see if its shadows provide refuge or risk. The marketplace, a roaring beast by day, lies silent under the moon's pale watch as Eadric creeps into its heart. Where merchants once bellowed and carts clattered, now only shadows linger, the stalls standing empty like a ghost town of commerce. Scattered turnips roll underfoot, forgotten in the day's frenzy, and the air carries the faint tang of bruised fruit and trodden earth. Eadric's bare feet tread lightly, his stick tapping softly as he scans the darkened rows, seeking a corner to claim for the night. The market's eerie quiet presses against him, broken only by the creak of a loose board or the rustle of a stray breeze. His heart hums with cautious ingenuity, knowing this fleeting refuge demands quick wits to avoid discovery. He spots a stall, its counter sagging under a flimsy canvas roof, and slips beneath it, his movements swift as a fox dodging a hunter. The ground is hard, littered with straw and vegetable scraps, but Eadric curls up, pulling his tattered cloak over him like a blanket, its holes offering little warmth. His fingers brush against a stale crust of bread, half buried in the dirt, a small victory that sparks a faint grin. He tucks it into his cloak, a treasure for later, though hunger gnaws at his gut. The stall's cramped space feels like a fragile fortress, its canvas flapping softly, shielding him from the night's chill but not its threats. Eadric's eyes dart toward the shadows, wary of what might lurk beyond. The market is no safe haven. Night watchmen prowl, their lanterns casting fickle beams, and stray dogs or geese, guarding their kingdom with honks, could betray his hiding place. Each creak of a stall or distant bark sets his nerves alight, his stick gripped tight, ready to fend off trouble. The air grows colder, the canvas above trembling in the breeze, and Eadric pulls his cloak tighter, his breath shallow to avoid drawing attention. The silence, once a relief, now feels heavy, as if the market itself watches him, judging his audacity to claim its space. Yet exhaustion tugs at him, and he sinks into a cautious rest, his body tense, his mind alert to every sound. Before dawn's first light creeps across the horizon, Eadric stirs, his joints stiff from the hard ground. The market remains still, its silence unbroken by watchmen or beasts, and relief washes over him. He's gone unnoticed. He slips out from under the counter, brushing straw from his cloak, and moves swiftly, his stick tapping the ground as he vanishes into the gray morning. The crust in his pocket feels like a quiet triumph, proof of his resourcefulness in a world that offers little. The market's shadows gave Eadric a fleeting refuge, but its risks are steep. What of a place built for travelers, where faith and charity offer structure? Pilgrimage hostels, with their straw mats and holy rules, beckon as a unique shelter for a weary soul like Eadric. Let's follow him to see if their doors open wide or demand more than he can give. The road has left Eadric weary, his bare feet aching as he approaches the heavy wooden gate of a pilgrimage hostel, its walls weathered but steadfast under the fading light. Clutching a tarnished pilgrim's badge, a crude tin token borrowed from a fellow traveler, he presents it like a key carved of faith, proof of his piety, though his heart races with the lie. The monk at the gate, his face lined like old parchment, examines the badge with a squint, then nods, gesturing Eadric inside. The hostel's promise of shelter, reserved for those on sacred journeys, fills him with hope, a flicker of light in the gloom of his travels. The air carries the scent of wax and herbs, and the distant murmur of prayers soothes his frayed nerves, offering a rare moment of peace in a world of hardship. Inside, the guest hall is a sanctuary of stone and silence, its high ceiling swallowing the sound of Eadric's cautious steps. Rows of straw mats line the floor, each occupied by pilgrims whose cloaks are as worn as his own. A monk hands him a bowl of watery soup, its steam rising like a prayer, and points to an empty mat near the wall. The soup tastes of cabbage and faint charity, warming Eadric's hands as much as his belly. The hall is sparse, its stone walls bare save for a wooden cross looming above, its presence both comforting and stern. Eadric sips slowly, his hunger dulled, grateful for the hostel's charity but mindful of its rules. The mat beneath him is thin, the straw prickling through his tattered cloak, but it's a far cry from the cold earth of the road. A monk passes, his robes brushing the floor, and fixes Eadric with a sharp glance. "Mind your tongue near the relics," he warns, his voice low but firm, lest blasphemy taint this holy place. Eadric nods, cowed by the weight of the hostel's sanctity, feeling the eyes of saints and pilgrims alike judging his worth. He settles onto his mat, the straw creaking under his weight, and listens to the soft murmurs of prayers from those around him. The hall hums with a disciplined quiet, broken only by coughs and the rustle of cloaks. Eadric's body aches, but the hostel's walls shield him from the night's threats, and he feels a cautious gratitude, tempered by the knowledge that he's here under false pretenses. Sleep comes slowly, lulled by the rhythm of distant chants, though the hard floor presses against his bones. At dawn, the swell of morning prayers rouses him, the pilgrims' voices rising in unison, a tide of devotion that fills the hall. Eadric stirs, his body stiff but rested, his heart heavy with a disciplined gratitude for this fleeting haven. He rises, clutching his stick, and slips out as the prayers continue, eager to avoid further scrutiny. The hostel's charity has sustained Eadric, but its doors are not always open. What of bolder risks, where shelter comes with danger? Noble estates, with their warm stables and watchful guards, loom as a tempting but perilous option. Let's follow Eadric to see if their shadowed grounds offer refuge or a thief's reckoning. The moon hangs low, casting a silver sheen over the sprawling estate of a noble, its fields and fences a world apart from Eadric's weary road. Heart pounding, he creeps through the shadows, a shadow dodging moonlight, his bare feet silent on the dewy grass. The stable ahead beckons, its timbers dark but promising warmth, a forbidden refuge for a peasant with nothing to offer but nerve. The air carries the scent of hay and wealth, and Eadric's stick trembles in his grip as he slips past a hedge, every rustle a threat of discovery. The estate is no place for the likes of him. Nobles guard their lands with dogs and steel, and a trespasser risks a whip or worse. Yet the stable's allure, a whisper of comfort in a merciless night, pulls him forward. Inside, the stable glows with the heat of living beasts, the air thick with the musky tang of horses and damp straw. The horses snort, their eyes glinting like judgmental lords, as if they know Eadric doesn't belong. He finds a corner behind a stack of hay, the warmth wrapping around him like a stolen cloak, though the straw pricks his skin through his tattered rags. His breath catches, the thrill of trespass mingling with fear, and he curls tight, his stick clutched close, ready to bolt at the first sign of trouble. The horses shift, their hooves thudding softly, and Eadric wonders if their noise might mask his presence, or betray it. A sudden clank of metal freezes his blood. A guard, his lantern swinging, passes close to the stable door. Eadric presses deeper into the hay, his heart hammering like a smith's forge, certain the light will find him. "Who's there?" the guard mutters, his voice gruff, but his steps fade, the lantern's glow retreating into the night. Eadric exhales, a shaky laugh escaping his lips, the sly humor of his escape cutting through the panic. He's unseen, a ghost in the noble's domain, and the stable's warmth becomes a fragile prize. Sleep creeps in, fitful and tense, broken by the horses' snorts and the creak of beams, but the hay's embrace holds him until dawn. The first light of morning seeps through the stable's cracks, and Eadric stirs, his body stiff but alive, his heart still racing from the night's gamble. He slips out, silent as a wisp, past the sleeping horses and into the gray dawn, his stick tapping the ground as he flees the estate. Relief washes over him, cautious but real. He's cheated the noble's wrath, a small victory in a world that punishes boldness. The road calls him back, its hardships familiar but no less daunting. The stable's stolen warmth was a risky triumph, but such gambles are rare. When estates are out of reach, what remains for a desperate traveler? Abandoned buildings, their crumbling walls whispering of ghosts and shelter, offer a final, eerie refuge. Let's follow Eadric to see if these forsaken ruins provide rest or a new kind of peril. The night is a heavy shroud as Eadric stumbles upon a crumbling cottage, its sagging silhouette barely visible in the moonlight. The walls, patched with moss and broken stone, lean as if weary of standing, and the roof is half gone, exposing beams to the starry sky. This ruin, whispering secrets of forgotten lives, feels more like a tomb than a shelter, but Eadric's aching bones and bare feet demand rest. Medieval tales of haunted ruins flicker in his mind, stories of spirits bound to forsaken homes, but desperation outweighs fear. The air carries the damp scent of decay, and his stick taps cautiously as he steps inside, the ground soft with years of dirt and neglect. The cottage offers little, but it's a roof, however broken, and Eadric clings to that grim promise. He finds a corner where the roof still holds, the floor littered with brittle straw that crumbles under his touch. Settling down, he piles the straw into a makeshift bed, his tattered cloak a thin shield against the chill. The rafters creak above, groaning like the complaints of the long-departed, and a ghostly wind whistles through gaps in the walls, stirring dust that dances in the faint moonlight. Eadric's heart quickens, each sound sharpening his nerves, but he pulls his cloak tighter, determined to claim this eerie refuge. The cottage feels alive, its shadows shifting as if watching him, and he wonders if the priest's tales of restless spirits were more than fireside warnings. A sudden scuttle in the dark makes him freeze, his stick raised, eyes wide. "Just a rat," he mutters, "not a spirit." The words are a fragile shield, spoken to calm his racing pulse, though the darkness seems to mock his bravado. He imagines eyes in the shadows, but the scuttle fades, and he exhales, settling back into the straw. The wind's mournful howl softens, and exhaustion pulls at him, dragging him into a shallow sleep. The cottage's eerie embrace holds him, its creaks and whispers weaving into his dreams, where ghosts and rats blur into one. Yet no spectral hand disturbs him, only the itch of fleas that find his skin, a reminder that even ruins have their price. Dawn creeps through the broken roof, its gray light rousing Eadric from his uneasy rest. He stirs, stiff and sore, his cloak damp with dew that seeped through the gaps. The cottage stands silent, its shadows less menacing in the morning's glow, and relief washes over him. No ghosts, only fleas, have claimed him in the night. He scratches at a fresh bite, a wry smile tugging at his lips as he gathers his stick and steps out. The ruin's eerie shelter a grim but sufficient haven. He's survived, a small defiance against the night's terrors, and the road awaits once more. This haunted cottage, for all its chills, gave Eadric a fleeting respite from the road's cruelties. Yet such places are rare, and their eerie embrace is a gamble few would choose. When ruins and stables fail, a stranger's kindness can be a saving grace, a flicker of humanity in a harsh world. Let's follow Eadric to see if a generous hearth offers the warmth and rest he craves. The night's chill wraps around Eadric as he stumbles toward a low cottage, its thatch sagging under the weight of years. His bare feet ache, his cloak heavy with dew, and desperation drives him to knock on the door, each tap a plea against the dark. A widow answers, her face weathered like stone smoothed by a river, her eyes sharp but not unkind. She takes in Eadric's ragged form, a beggar cloaked in dust, and her lips tighten, weighing his need against her own scarcity. "Please, good woman," he whispers, voice raw, "just a corner for the night." Her gaze softens, seeing the exhaustion in his blistered feet, and she steps aside. "Come in, but mind your manners," she says, her voice firm yet warm, like embers under ash. Inside, the cottage glows with the faint light of a fire, its warmth a balm to Eadric's weary bones. She points to a spot by the hearth where the floor is packed dirt, and hands him a bowl of thin stew, its broth watery but fragrant with herbs. "Eat, but don't trouble my hens," she warns, nodding toward a corner where chickens cluck softly, their eyes glinting in the firelight. Eadric nods, gratitude swelling as he sips the stew, its warmth spreading through him like a quiet sunrise. The cottage is cramped, the air thick with the scent of smoke and feathers, but the fire's glow and the widow's kindness make it a haven. He feels a flicker of humanity, a rare gift in a world that's shown him little. In thanks, Eadric offers to chop wood, his hands clumsy but earnest as he swings an axe outside, the widow watching from the doorway. Each strike of the blade feels like repayment, a small bridge between strangers. Their eyes meet briefly, a silent understanding passing between them, her loneliness, his struggle, and Eadric senses a connection, fragile but real, like a thread holding torn cloth together. The task done, he returns to the hearth, curling up on the floor, the fire's crackle lulling him into a gentle sleep. The hen's soft clucks and the widow's quiet breathing weave into his dreams, a reminder that kindness can bloom even in hardship's shadow. Dawn paints the sky gray, and Eadric stirs, his body stiff but warmed by the night's mercy. The widow is already awake, tending her fire, and he rises quietly, not wanting to overstay her generosity. At the door he pauses, murmuring, "God keep you," his voice thick with heartfelt gratitude. She nods, her face unreadable, and he steps into the cold, his stick in hand, carrying a spark of hope that burns brighter than before. The road awaits, but this fleeting kindness has strengthened him. Such rare generosity is a beacon, but when human kindness falters, other allies remain. Animals, with their warmth and unwitting aid, can offer survival's edge to a desperate traveler like Eadric. Let's follow him to see how the company of beasts might provide the shelter and comfort he needs to endure the road. The night's cold bites at Eadric's skin as he stumbles upon a farmer's goat shed, its rough timbers a faint outline in the moonlight. Exhausted and shivering, he's drawn to the promise of animal warmth, the shed's living furnaces with hooves offering a refuge no human door has provided. He slips inside, his bare feet crunching on straw, the air thick with the musky scent of goats and damp earth. The shed is cramped, its roof low and leaking, but the huddled goats radiate heat, a primal comfort that pulls him closer. His stick taps softly as he navigates the straw-strewn floor, wary of waking the animals or their owner, knowing a peasant caught here risks a beating. The goats stir, their eyes glinting in the dim light, and one, a scruffy creature with a patchy beard, nudges Eadric's leg curiously, its nose warm and damp. The heat from their bodies wraps around him like a heavy cloak, cutting through the chill that's clung to him since dusk. The air is pungent, a mix of manure and hay that stings his nose, but Eadric doesn't care. Warmth is worth the stench. He settles into a corner, pulling his tattered cloak over himself, the straw prickling through its holes. The goats shuffle, their hooves thudding softly, and Eadric feels oddly at ease, their presence a strange shield against the night's loneliness. "You're a better friend than most humans," he mutters with a wry chuckle, patting the nosy goat's flank as it sniffs his cloak, searching for something edible. The humor lifts his spirits, a fleeting spark in the grim reality of his journey. The goat's warmth seeps into his bones, dulling the ache of his blistered feet and the hunger gnawing at his gut. Fleas, ever present on the road, seem to ignore him for once, perhaps sated by the goat's thicker hides. The shed creaks, the wind rattling its boards, but the animal's steady breathing weaves a rough lullaby, grounding Eadric in this makeshift haven. He curls tighter, his stick within reach, and lets the warmth carry him towards sleep. For once, rest comes soundly, the goats' heat a steady comfort against the night's chill. Their soft bleats and occasional nudges blend into his dreams, a camaraderie born of shared survival. When dawn's gray light slips through the shed's cracks, Eadric wakes, his body stiff but warm, a rare contentment settling over him. He scratches the curious goat's ear, a silent thanks for its unwitting kindness, and slips out quietly, stick in hand, before the farmer stirs. The road awaits, but the night's warmth lingers, a small victory in a world of hardship. Eadric's journey has been a gauntlet of mud and misery, yet each night's refuge, barns, fields, sheds, has shaped him, forging resilience from desperation. The road has taught him to find allies in unlikely places, from saints' shadows to goats' warmth, and each step hardens his resolve. How has this grueling path changed him, and what wisdom does he carry as he nears his journey's end? Let's follow Eadric to see how his travels have tempered his spirit, preparing him for the return to a village that may no longer feel like home. The road stretches behind Eadric, a muddy ribbon of trials, as he begins his return to the village, each step a limp but resolute. His bare feet, calloused and scarred, carry the weight of weeks spent wandering, his tattered cloak flapping like a flag of surrender. In his pocket, a sack drained of hope but filled with stories, tales of barns that welcomed him, fields that chilled him, and goats that warmed him, replaces the stale loaf he started with. Exhaustion clings to him like damp earth, his bones aching from nights on hard ground, his stomach a hollow echo of hunger. Yet there's a steadiness in his stride, a quiet strength forged in the crucible of the road. The horizon holds the faint outline of his village, a place both familiar and distant, and Eadric's heart stirs with a bittersweet ache. He retraces his path, the ruts and stones now old acquaintances, and recalls the lessons carved into his soul. He knows which barns offer straw and which hide surly farmers, which dogs bark but don't bite, and which paths lead to shrines worth praying at. The road has drawn a map etched in blisters, each mark a story of survival. Eadric's mind drifts to that first day, when he stepped out with naive hope, believing the journey might be kinder than the village's grind. A dry laugh escapes him, rough as gravel, as he shakes his head at his past optimism. The road has tempered him, stripping away illusions but leaving behind a hard-won wisdom, a sense of what it takes to endure when the world offers no mercy. The fields around him hum with morning's first light, and Eadric pauses, leaning on his stick, his breath visible in the crisp air. He thinks of the widow's stew, the monastery's stern broth, the stable's stolen warmth, moments that kept him alive, each a thread in the tapestry of his journey. His laugh fades, replaced by a quiet pride, a recognition that he's faced wolves, cold and hunger, and come through, not unscathed but unbroken. The village lies just beyond the next rise, its smoke curling into the sky, and Eadric feels the weight of skeptical eyes awaiting him. Neighbors who'll scoff at his tales of distant towns and starlit fields. Yet he carries his stories like a shield, ready to share them, to prove he's more than the peasant who left. As he nears the village's edge, the familiar creak of the mill and the bleat of sheep greet him, stirring memories of a life he once thought he'd never leave. His journey has changed him, etched lines of resolve into his weathered face, and he steps forward, ready to face the village's doubts with the quiet dignity of one who's walked the road and returned. Eadric's tale of survival fades, but another world awaits, one where cloth and color weave a different kind of story. In Tudor England, far from muddy roads, fashion shapes power and identity, binding society in silks and rules. Let's step into this vibrant era, where a peasant's descendant navigates a hierarchy as rigid as Eadric's road was perilous, and see how attire becomes a language of its own. Step into Tudor England, where the air hums with ambition, and every stitch of clothing speaks a language of power. Thomas, a descendant of Eadric's stubborn blood, stands in a bustling town square, his eyes wide as a noble strides past, his attire glittering like a cathedral window. Velvet doublet, slashed sleeves, and a cap adorned with a peacock feather proclaim his rank, a tapestry of rank woven in cloth that Thomas can only admire from afar. The noble's every step is a declaration, his wealth and status sewn into silk, while Thomas, in his coarse wool tunic, feels the weight of his place in this rigid world. The square buzzes with merchants, maids, and lords, each dressed to announce their worth, and Thomas watches, curiosity sparking like flint, eager to understand this dazzling code. In Tudor England, fashion isn't mere vanity, it's law. Sumptuary laws dictate who wears what, guarding the hierarchy with the force of a royal decree. A merchant, flush with coin, might dare to don crimson, thinking it a step toward nobility, only to face a stinging fine for overstepping his station. Crimson is for lords, velvet for the elite. Wool and drab colors are the peasant's lot. These rules are no suggestion, they're chains, binding each soul to their place. Thomas has heard of a clothier in the next town, slapped with a penalty for sporting a velvet cap, his ambition crushed under the weight of tradition. The law watches closely, ensuring the line between high and low remains as sharp as a tailor's shears. The visual divide is stark. Nobles glide through the streets, their silks shimmering, their furs brushing the ground like whispers of wealth. Gold embroidery catches the sun, and jewels wink from their fingers, each piece a badge of privilege. Thomas, meanwhile, tugs at his rough wool tunic, its gray threads scratching his skin, its dullness marking him as one of the earthbound. His hands, calloused from labor, will never touch the smooth luxury of satin or the weight of a fur-lined cloak. The noble's attire is a barrier, as real as a castle wall, separating him from a world of splendor he can only dream of entering. Thomas's heart stirs with longing as he watches a lady's silk gown ripple in the breeze, its colors bold enough to shame a sunset. He imagines himself in such finery, his wool traded for velvet, his cap adorned with a single jewel. But the thought is dangerous. Sumptuary laws don't forgive, and a peasant's reach for grandeur invites punishment. Awareness settles over him, heavy as his tunic, that to wear such clothes is to challenge the order of things. He turns from the square, his curiosity tempered by the stakes of this glittering game. This world of cloth and color has its own icons, none more striking than the ruff, that starched collar framing Tudor faces like a halo of pride. Let's follow Thomas as he marvels at this peculiar fashion, a symbol of status as bold as any crown, and see how it shapes the ambitions of those who wear it, and those who can only watch. In the heart of Tudor England, Thomas lingers at the edge of a bustling court, his eyes caught by a courtier whose neck is framed by a starched ruff, a linen crown framing vanity that seems to defy gravity itself. The ruff, wide as a cartwheel, ripples with crisp pleats, its pristine white linen glowing under the sun, a bold proclamation of wealth and leisure. Courtiers strut past, their ruffs bobbing with each step, some so vast they force heads to tilt like haughty swans. Thomas stares, wonder sparking in his chest at the absurdity of these creations, half expecting them to topple their wearers into the dust. Yet there's a strange beauty in their excess, a craftsmanship that turns cloth into a spectacle rivaling any jewel. These ruffs are no simple accessory. Crafted from fine linen imported from distant lands, they demand hours of meticulous labor. Servants toil over steaming vats, starching the fabric until it holds its shape like a sculptor's dream. Thomas overhears a weary maid, her hands red from work, muttering to another, "I'd sooner iron a horse than another of these cursed roughs." Her companion snorts, nodding as they trudge back to their tasks. The process is an art. Linen folded into intricate pleats, starched stiff with solutions of grain and water, then pressed with hot irons to create those perfect radiating frills. Only the elite can afford such extravagance, each ruff a badge of time and coin no laborer could spare. The ruff's impracticality is its point, a deliberate marker of class. Thomas, in his rough wool tunic, knows he'd never manage a day's work with such a collar choking his neck. A farmer bending to plow, or a blacksmith at his forge, would find the ruff a mocking hindrance, its starched edges wilting under sweat or catching in the dirt. For courtiers, though, it's a triumph, proclaiming they need not toil, their lives free of mud and muscle. The ruff sets them apart, a barrier as real as a castle gate, ensuring the likes of Thomas remain on the outside, gazing in. It's a costume for a world of banquets and dances, not fields or forges, and its absurdity only deepens its allure. Thomas touches his own collar, a plain strip of wool, its edges frayed from years of wear. The contrast stings, the social gulf yawning wide as he watches the courtiers glide past, their ruffs framing faces that never glance his way. His wonder fades, replaced by a quiet recognition of the exclusivity woven into every pleat. To wear a ruff is to claim a place he'll never touch, a life where cloth speaks louder than labor. He turns from the court, his fingers lingering on his collar, the weight of his station settling heavier than before. The ruff is but one thread in Tudor fashion's vibrant weave. Another bold trend, the slashed sleeve, catches the eye with its daring cuts, revealing glimpses of wealth beneath. Let's follow Thomas as he marvels at this style, born of battlefields but now a courtly boast, and see how it further shapes the hierarchy that binds his world. Thomas stands in a crowded market square, his eyes snagged by a noble striding past, his sleeves a dance of fabric and defiance. The doublet's rich velvet is slashed in deliberate patterns, revealing flashes of gold silk beneath, each cut a window to wealth that shimmers in the sunlight. The slashes, precise as a painter's stroke, ripple with every gesture, drawing gasps from onlookers and a spark of fascination in Thomas's chest. His own wool tunic, gray and patched, feels heavier in the presence of such artistry. The noble's sleeves a bold declaration of rank that makes the air itself seem plainer. The market hums around him, but Thomas is transfixed, caught by the playful elegance of a style that seems to mock the drudgery of his world. These slashed sleeves, now a courtly flourish, were born in the chaos of battlefields. Soldiers, their armor torn by swords, once stuffed bright cloth into the gashes, turning damage into defiance. What began as necessity became a boast, adopted by nobles to proclaim their daring and wealth. The slashes, once haphazard, are now a tailor's triumph, each cut carefully planned to reveal layers of silk or satin, colors reserved for those far above Thomas's station. The style speaks of a life untouched by labor, where cloth can be sliced for show, not survival, and the market's chatter fades as Thomas imagines the weight of such sleeves on his own arms. Nearby, a tailor, his fingers nimble as a lute player's, brags to a customer, "My cuts are sharp as a falcon's eye, each one framing the silk just so." His voice carries a pride that stings Thomas, who knows no tailor would waste such skill on a peasant's wool. The slashes require precision, the underlayer stitched to hold its place, a craft that demands time and coin beyond Thomas's reach. The noble's gold silk peeks through like a glimpse of another world, one where beauty is a currency Thomas cannot spend. His fascination grows, tinged with awe at the craftsmanship, but the gap between him and the noble widens with every glittering slash. Thomas lets his hand drift to his own sleeve, its rough wool unyielding under his touch. He imagines it slashed, vibrant cloth bursting through, transforming him into someone who might turn heads in the square. But the thought is a dangerous spark. Sumptuary laws forbid such finery for his kind, and a peasant in slashed sleeves would face fines or worse. Envy curls in his gut, sharp and heavy, as he watches the noble disappear into the crowd, his sleeves a banner of a life Thomas can only dream of. The market's noise returns, grounding him in his place. Slashed sleeves are but one thread in Tudor fashion's dazzling weave. Jeweled gowns, heavy with pearls and power, stand as the ultimate symbols of status, worn by those who rule the courts and command the eyes of all. Let's follow Thomas as he gazes at these radiant garments, their sparkle a reminder of the hierarchy that shapes his world. In the heart of a bustling Tudor town, Thomas stands frozen, his breath caught as a noblewoman glides past, her gown a vision of splendor. The robes glitter like royal vaults, heavy with pearls that shimmer like captured stars, and gold thread that weaves wealth into every fold. The fabric, a deep crimson reserved for the elite, cascades to the ground, its hem brushing the cobblestones with a whisper of opulence. Thomas's eyes widen, awe washing over him at the sheer magnificence, each pearl a testament to a fortune he'll never touch. His own tunic, rough and gray, feels like a shackle in the presence of such grandeur, and the crowd around him fades, their murmurs drowned by the gown's silent command. These jeweled gowns are more than fashion, they're political armor, crafted to proclaim power. Queen Elizabeth herself wields them as tools of statecraft, her wardrobe a stage for her reign. Pearls, sewn in intricate patterns, speak of purity, while a gown embroidered with golden suns, blazing across the bodice, claims divine favor, aligning her rule with the heavens. Such symbols are deliberate, each stitch a message to courtiers and foreign envoys alike. Her authority is unshakable, her presence godlike. The noblewoman's gown echoes this, its extravagance a mirror of royal ambition, designed to awe and subdue those who gaze upon it. The gown's weight is its own statement. Heavy with jewels and dense embroidery, it slows the wearer's steps, forcing a measured grace that radiates power. No laborer could move freely under such a burden, and that's the point. Its impracticality screams privilege, a life free of toil. Thomas watches the noblewoman pause, her attendants adjusting her train, and marvels at how the gown transforms her into a living monument. Yet there's tension beneath the splendor. One misstep, one torn hem, could invite whispers of disgrace in a court where appearance is everything. The gown demands perfection, a pressure as heavy as its fabric. Thomas's hand grazes his plain tunic, its coarse wool a stark contrast to the silk and pearls before him. His awe deepens, but intimidation creeps in, a cold reminder of the chasm between his world and hers. He imagines wearing such finery, the weight of gold thread on his shoulders, but the thought is fleeting. Sumptuary laws would punish a peasant for daring to mimic nobility. The noblewoman's gaze sweeps past him, unseeing, and Thomas feels small, his tunic a badge of his place in this rigid hierarchy. The crowd parts for her, their deference a silent agreement that her gown, her status, commands all. This dazzling display of wealth and power leaves Thomas rooted, his heart caught between wonder and the sting of exclusion. Yet Tudor fashion holds another bold symbol, one for men who seek to match such grandeur. The codpiece, a brash declaration of masculinity, struts into the courts, demanding attention as fiercely as any jeweled gown. Let's follow Thomas as he encounters this peculiar garment, its audacity a counterpoint to the noblewoman's elegance, and see how it shapes the Tudor stage. Thomas lingers in a bustling Tudor courtyard, his eyes snagged by a noble strutting past, his codpiece a throne of fabric and bravado that demands every gaze. Padded to absurdity, studded with jewels that catch the light, it juts from his tight hose like a proclamation, impossible to ignore. The crowd murmurs, some with stifled laughter, others with raised brows, as the noble's swagger turns the codpiece into a spectacle of virility. Thomas bites back a grin, amusement bubbling at the sheer audacity of this garment, its bold silhouette a far cry from his own patched breeches. The codpiece, outrageous and proud, seems to mock the restraint of the court, and Thomas can't help but marvel at its cheeky excess. Born from necessity, the codpiece began as a practical patch, covering the gap in tight hose that left little to modesty. Soldiers and laborers first tied on these flaps, but nobles, ever eager to outshine, transformed them into boasts of manhood. Padded with wool, adorned with silk or gold, they grew larger, louder, a canvas for wealth and swagger. By the time Thomas sees them, they're less about function and more about flaunting status, a way to say, "I am more than you." The noble's codpiece embroidered with silver thread is a monument to excess, a declaration that needs no words, though it draws whispers from every corner of the yard. A courtier nearby, his own codpiece modestly sized, leans toward a companion and jests. If his pride grows any larger, he'll need a cart to carry it. The crowd chuckles, and Thomas joins in, his amusement tinged with the thrill of overhearing such boldness. The codpiece, for all its pomp, is a fleeting king. Rumors swirl that fashion is shifting, favoring subtler displays. Its reign, once unchallenged, is waning as courtiers tire of its brazenness, but for now it struts through the courts, commanding laughter and awe in equal measure. Thomas's chuckle fades as he glances at his own breeches, plain and worn, no match for the noble's spectacle. He imagines sporting such a codpiece, the weight of it pulling at his waist, the eyes it would draw. But the thought is absurd. A peasant in such finery would be mocked or worse, fined for defying the sumptuary laws that guard such displays for the elite. Bemusement settles over him, a mix of mirth and resignation, as he realizes this trend, like so many, is slipping away, a relic of a bolder time. He turns from the noble, his plain attire grounding him in his place. The codpiece's audacity fades, but Tudor fashion's story continues, woven in the hues that paint its hierarchy. Color, vibrant and symbolic, carries power as potent as any jewel or cut, dictating who shines and who fades in this rigid world. Let's follow Thomas as he navigates this spectrum, where shades speak louder than words, and see how they shape the boundaries of his dreams. Thomas stands in the shadow of a Tudor market, his breath catching as a noble sweeps by, draped in a purple cloak that ripples like a banner of divine right. The hue, deep and rich as twilight, marks its wearer as near royal, a color so sacred only those touched by the crown dare wear it. The cloak's folds catch the sunlight, each shimmer a silent command that draws every eye, including Thomas's, who feels his own drab tunic fade to insignificance. Wonder grips him, the purple a vision of power he can only dream of, its vibrancy a world apart from the muddy lanes of his life. In Tudor England, color is no mere choice. It's a decree, a language that spells out rank and righteousness in every thread. The palette of this era paints a rigid hierarchy. Crimson, bold and warm, cloaks the nobility, its richness a privilege earned by birth or favor. Gold and silver threads weave through their garments, catching light like coins, while blues and greens, bright as spring, mark the wealthy merchants who skirt the edges of grandeur. For peasants like Thomas, the world is cast in muted browns and grays, colors of earth and toil that cling to wool as coarse as their lives. These drab hues, practical for hiding dirt, brand him as one who labors, not one who rules. Sumptuary laws enforce this divide, ensuring no peasant dares don a hue that challenges their place, lest they face fines or scorn. A merchant nearby, his own cloak a modest green, catches Thomas staring and leans close, his voice low. "Mind yourself, lad. Bright dyes aren't for the likes of us. Try purple, and the law'll have your hide." Thomas nods, the warning sharp as a blade, cutting through his fleeting dreams of color. The merchant's words carry the weight of truth. To wear a noble's hue is to invite punishment, a reminder that even cloth bows to the crown's will. Thomas's wonder dims, the purple cloak now a distant star, beautiful but untouchable, its brilliance a privilege he'll never claim. He runs his fingers over his own tunic, its gray wool rough and faded, a badge of his station. The noble's cloak vanishes into the crowd, its purple folds a final taunt, and Thomas feels the weight of resignation settle over him. He'll never wear such colors, never know the thrill of silk dyed to dazzle. His world is one of mud and labor, where browns blend into the fields he treads. Yet there's a quiet acceptance in his heart, a recognition that his place, however humble, is his own. The market's noise returns, grounding him in the life he knows. Color may dictate destiny in Tudor England, but fabric weaves its own tale of status. Silk, velvet, and wool draw lines as sharp as any hue, marking who rises and who remains tethered to the earth. Let's follow Thomas as he navigates this tactile hierarchy, where the feel of cloth under his fingers speaks of power and exclusion as loudly as the colors that adorn it. In a crowded Tudor street, Thomas brushes past a noble, his fingers grazing the edge of a velvet cloak, its plush texture a whisper of wealth in every weave. The fabric yields under his touch, soft as a summer breeze, its deep green hue shimmering with a richness that seems to hum with privilege. His heart stirs with admiration, the velvet smoothness a world away from the rough world he knows. The noble moves on, unaware of Thomas's fleeting contact, but the sensation lingers, a glimpse of a life draped in luxury. In Tudor England, fabric is a language, each texture spelling out rank, and velvet speaks of noble blood, a privilege as untouchable as the stars. Thomas's own tunic, woven of coarse wool, scratches against his skin, its gray threads practical for hiding dirt, but plain as the fields he treads. Wool is the peasant's lot, durable and cheap, suited for labor, but devoid of grandeur. Nobles, meanwhile, wrap themselves in silk that flows like water, or fur that brushes the ground like a royal decree. These fabrics, imported from distant lands or painstakingly crafted, are reserved for those whose hands never touch a plow. The contrast is stark. Thomas's wool clings to him, heavy with sweat and dust, while the noble's velvet dances lightly, untouched by toil, a barrier as real as any castle wall. A noble nearby, his silk doublet gleaming, boasts to a companion, "This silk came from Venice, finer than any English loom could dream." His voice drips with pride, each word a reminder of the wealth that buys such treasures. Thomas overhears, his admiration tinged with envy, as he imagines the silk's cool caress, a sensation he'll never know. The noble's words underscore the divide. Imported fabrics are for those who dine with kings, not for peasants who scrape by on bread and hope. Sumptuary laws ensure this, guarding silk and fur for the elite, leaving wool to those who toil. Thomas's hand falls to his tunic, its rough weave a grounding weight. The velvet's touch fades from his fingers, replaced by the familiar itch of wool, and the social barriers rise like iron gates in his mind. He longs to wear such finery, to feel the world bend to his presence, as it does for the noble, but the laws and his empty pockets bind him to his place. Exclusion settles over him, heavy as his tunic, a reminder that fabric, like color, is a privilege he cannot claim. The street's bustle returns, but Thomas feels apart, his admiration for the noble's cloak now a quiet ache. Velvet and silk may define the elite, but accessories, hats, gloves, jewels, add the final flourish to Tudor status. These small adornments, as deliberate as any gown, complete the language of rank, proclaiming identity with every detail. Let's follow Thomas as he gazes at these finishing touches, their sparkle and craft a further reminder of the world he can only watch from the shadows. Thomas weaves through a vibrant Tudor market, his eyes caught by a courtier, whose feathered hat bobs like a crown of status, its ostrich plumes swaying with each confident step. The hat, adorned with a jeweled clasp that glints like a tiny sun, proclaims wealth as loudly as any trumpet. Nearby, a lady glides past, her French hood a delicate frame of silk and pearls, its sharp angles softening her face while announcing her rank. The hood's embroidery catches the light, a subtle boast of her place at court. Thomas's fascination flares, these accessories transforming their wearers into living emblems of power, far removed from his own patched tunic and bare head. In Tudor England, such adornments are no mere trinkets. They're the final strokes of a portrait painted in cloth and coin. These accessories carry weight beyond beauty, weaving politics into their very threads. A lady's hood, whether French or gabled, signals allegiance to court factions. Some favor the bold styles of Anne Boleyn, others the modest shapes tied to Queen Catherine. A courtier's hat, its feathers sourced from distant lands, speaks of trade connections and royal favor, each plume a calculated choice. Sumptuary laws guard these symbols, ensuring only the elite can wear such finery, while a peasant like Thomas is left with a plain cap, unadorned and unnoticed. The market hums with whispers of who wears what, each accessory a move in the chess game of courtly ambition, where a mischosen jewel could spark scandal. A lady nearby adjusts her pearl necklace, its luster drawing Thomas's gaze. She turns to a companion, her voice light but proud. "These pearls were a gift from my lord, none finer in London." The words drip with status, each bead a marker of wealth Thomas can only dream of. Her necklace, like the courtier's hat, completes the Tudor look, turning attire into a performance of power. Thomas listens, his fascination tinged with a wry amusement at the lady's boast. But the satire stings. Such finery is a world he'll never touch, its rules as rigid as the laws that bind him. His hand drifts to his own cap, a shapeless thing of gray wool, its edges frayed from years of wear. The touch grounds him, the rough fabric a stark contrast to the plumes and pearls around him. The courtier and lady move through the market, their accessories drawing eyes and whispers, while Thomas feels invisible, a shadow in their glittering world. Distance settles over him, his fascination fading into a quiet ache for a place he cannot claim. The market's bustle surrounds him, but he stands apart, his plain cap a reminder of the barriers woven into every feather and jewel. Accessories, with their delicate power, complete the Tudor stage, where every detail speaks of rank and ambition. But their broader impact, like the gowns and ruffs before them, shapes a society bound by display, where cloth and adornment dictate destiny. Let's step back with Thomas to see how this world of fashion, from velvet to pearls, forges a hierarchy that echoes far beyond the market's noise. In the tapestry of Tudor England, fashion was no mere adornment. It was a theater of rank, where every stitch and hue staged a drama of power and identity. Monarchs and nobles strode as actors, their garments crafting narratives of authority that held courts and crowds in thrall. Silks, ruffs, and jeweled hats were not just cloth but declarations, each fold a line in a play that dictated who ruled and who obeyed. Thomas, standing in the fading light of a market square, feels the weight of this spectacle, his plain wool tunic a silent reminder of his role as a spectator, not a star. Yet the grandeur he's witnessed, velvet cloaks, slashed sleeves, pearl-strewn hoods, stirs a quiet contemplation, a sense that this world of display shapes more than just the eye. Queen Elizabeth I, the era's greatest performer, wielded fashion as political armor. Her gowns, heavy with pearls and embroidered with symbols of divinity, transformed her into a living icon, her presence commanding loyalty as fiercely as any army. A bodice stitched with golden suns or a ruff wide as a banquet table wasn't vanity. It was strategy, a way to bind her court to her myth. Thomas has heard tales of her appearances, each outfit a calculated stroke to dazzle ambassadors and silence rivals. Her wardrobe was a kingdom in itself, its splendor echoing through the ages, shaping how power is worn. Thomas's thoughts turn inward as he leans against a market stall, his rough cap in hand. "I'll never wear silk or strut in a court," he muses, his voice a whisper in his mind. "But there's strength in knowing my place, in seeing the world's grand stage." The spectacle of Tudor fashion, though beyond his reach, inspires him, not to rise above his station, but to find dignity in his own. He accepts the boundaries of his wool-clad life, yet carries a spark of awe for the artistry he's seen, a reminder that even a peasant can dream in color. This theater of rank, born in Tudor courts, casts a long shadow. Modern fashion, with its bold cuts and vibrant hues, owes a debt to those who turned cloth into power, who made every garment a statement. The ruffs and slashed sleeves may be gone, but their spirit lingers in the way we dress to declare who we are, or who we wish to be. Thomas, stepping back into the market's hum, carries this lesson, his plain tunic no less a part of the human story. But another stage awaits, far from Tudor England's rigid courts. Across seas and centuries, the Arab bazaar pulses with a different kind of vibrancy, its stalls and spices weaving a tapestry of trade and culture. Let's leave Thomas and his woolen world to step into this bustling marketplace, where a merchant named Yusuf navigates a chaos of colors and voices, and where every transaction tells a story of connection and survival. Yusuf steps into the pulsing heart of a Cairo bazaar, where narrow lanes throb like a heartbeat of trade and tales. The air hums with life, a chaotic dance of merchants, shoppers, and donkey carts that he weaves through with practiced steps, his sandals slapping the dusty ground. Colors explode around him: scarlet rugs, turquoise beads, gleaming brass lamps, each stall a burst of vibrancy that dazzles his eyes. Voices clash in a cacophony of shouts and laughter, the market a living beast that threatens to swallow him whole. His heart races, overwhelmed by the sheer intensity, yet a spark of excitement kindles within him, drawn to the rhythm of this ancient crossroads where empires meet. The aromas hit him like a wave, a perfume woven from empires. Roasting lamb sizzles on spits, its smoky scent mingling with the sharp tang of cumin and the warm, earthy notes of saffron. Freshly baked bread, golden and steaming, wafts from a clay oven, blending with the sweet musk of dates piled high. Each breath pulls Yusuf deeper into the bazaar's spell, the smells as vivid as the silks fluttering overhead. A child darts past, clutching a pomegranate, its juice staining his fingers, and Yusuf sidesteps a camel's lumbering stride, its load of woven baskets creaking under the weight. The market is a sensory tide, pulling him along, his senses alive with its relentless pulse. Haggling is the bazaar's heartbeat, a daily ritual as old as the stones beneath Yusuf's feet. Merchants lean forward, their voices rising in a theatrical duel, offering silks for a song or lamps for a fortune. "Finest turquoise, straight from Persia," one bellows, while another counters a buyer's offer with a mock gasp, "You'd rob me blind?" Laughter ripples through the crowd, the give and take a dance of wit and will. Yusuf watches, his excitement growing, knowing he'll soon join this chorus, his own voice weaving into the market song. The air crackles with deals struck and promises made, each transaction a thread in the bazaar's endless tapestry. Drawn forward, Yusuf's eyes lock on a spice stall, its sacks brimming with ochre turmeric, crimson paprika, and the delicate gold of saffron threads. The merchant, a wiry man with a grin like a crescent moon, beckons him closer, his hands stained with the colors of his trade. Yusuf feels the market's pulse quicken in his chest, his overwhelm giving way to eagerness as he steps toward the stall, ready to barter, to taste, to become part of this vibrant chaos. The spices promise stories of distant lands, and Yusuf, a merchant born to this world, is ready to claim his share. The bazaar's chaos is its lifeblood, but its spices are its signature, each grain a story of trade routes and conquests. These vibrant powders and seeds, more precious than gold, draw merchants like Yusuf into a world where flavor reigns supreme. Let's follow him to the spice stall, where the air hums with possibility, and see how these treasures shape the deals and dreams of the bazaar. Yusuf leans over the spice stall, his senses enveloped by the heady aroma of saffron, a golden breath of wealth that curls through the air like a whispered secret. The stall is a mosaic of colors: crimson paprika, amber turmeric, and deep brown cloves piled in woven sacks, each a treasure more precious than coin. He lifts a pinch of saffron, its delicate threads glowing in the sunlight, and inhales deeply, the scent rich with earth and mystery. The bazaar's clamor fades, the shouts of merchants and clatter of carts dimming as the spice's allure pulls him into a world of wonder. Around him, the stall hums with life, its perfumes weaving a tapestry of distant lands that Yusuf, a merchant of Cairo, feels privileged to touch. These spices are no mere seasonings. They are the bounty of empires, carried across deserts and seas. Saffron from Persia, cloves from the Moluccas, and cinnamon from India arrive on swaying caravans, their dusty trails stretching from Arabian ports to the bazaar's heart. Each grain bears the weight of a journey, through bandit-plagued routes and storm-tossed ships, guarded as fiercely as jewels. The labor of countless hands, from pickers to traders, pulses in every sack, their stories mingling with the scents that fill the air. Yusuf's chest swells with cultural pride, knowing Cairo's bazaar is a crossroads where the world's flavors meet, its stalls a testament to trade's enduring reach. The seller, a grizzled man with eyes sharp as a falcon's, notices Yusuf's fascination and leans forward, his voice rich with pride. This saffron sailed from Isfahan, plucked by hands that know its worth, he boasts, gesturing to a sack as if it holds the sun itself. Yusuf nods, his wonder deepening, the seller's words painting visions of distant fields and spice-laden camels. The bazaar thrives on such tales, each spice a chapter in a story of global connection, and Yusuf feels the pull of that vast web, his own trade a small but vital thread. He barters for a pinch of saffron, its cost stinging, but worth the fleeting luxury. As he tucks the precious threads into his pouch, a quiet appreciation settles over him, a sense of being linked to places he'll never see. Persian hills, Indian groves, Arabian sands. The spice is a bridge, connecting him to the world beyond the bazaar's chaos, and he steps back, his heart lighter, his senses still alive with its scent. The market's pulse surrounds him, but the saffron's fragrance lingers, a reminder of the wealth and wonder within his grasp. Spices paint the bazaar with flavor, but its textiles weave its color, their vibrant threads telling stories of skill and trade. From silks that shimmer like water to rugs heavy with patterns, these fabrics are the market's heartbeat, drawing Yusuf into a world of touch and beauty. Let's follow him to a textile stall, where the interplay of cloth and commerce reveals another layer of the bazaar's vibrant life. Yusuf weaves through the Cairo bazaar, his eyes caught by a stall where silks shimmer like liquid sunlight, their colors, emerald, sapphire, crimson, dancing in the morning glow. Nearby, carpets are piled high, their intricate patterns unfolding like tapestries of art and faith, each knot a story of devotion and skill. The threads weave scenes of gardens, mosques, and stars, their beauty so vivid Yusuf feels he could step into their world. His fingers graze a silk scarf, its smoothness a whisper of luxury, and awe washes over him, the textiles transforming the dusty market into a gallery of dreams. The bazaar's chaos, shouts, hooves, laughter, fades as he stands transfixed, the fabrics of vibrant pulse in this beating heart of trade. These textiles are born of distant looms and ancient roots. Silks glide from China, their delicate threads carried across mountains by traders' hands. Persian carpets, heavy with history, arrive on camelback, their patterns echoing tales of poets and kings. Local weavers add their craft, spinning cotton and wool into bolts that carry Cairo's own spirit. Each fabric bears the mark of its journey, from the silkworm's labor to the dye master's art, a testament to the bazaar's role as a crossroads of cultures. Yusuf's chest swells with reverence, knowing these threads tie him to a world far beyond the market's narrow lanes. At a cotton stall, Yusuf spots a bolt of soft white cloth, its weave tight and promising. The merchant, a wiry man with a quick smile, calls out, "Finest cotton, strong as a camel's heart." Yusuf counters, his voice steady, "Half that price, or I walk." The merchant feigns shock, clutching his chest, but his eyes gleam with the thrill of the haggle. "You'd beggar me," he cries, yet lowers the price, and Yusuf secures the bolt, his pulse quick with the small victory. The exchange is the bazaar's lifeblood, a dance of words that binds buyer and seller, each bolt a bridge between need and ambition. Yusuf steps back, his cotton prize tucked under his arm, but his gaze lingers on a silk robe, its sapphire folds gleaming like a distant sea. He imagines himself draped in it, the fabric cool against his skin, his steps carrying the weight of a merchant prince. The dream is fleeting. His purse holds only enough for necessities, and silk is a luxury for others. Yet aspiration flickers within him, a spark kindled by the bazaar's beauty, urging him to strive for more. He turns from the stall, the silk's allure lingering like a song, his heart alight with the promise of what might one day be his. The textile's dazzle paints the bazaar's soul, but its soundscape, shouts, songs, and clatter, gives it voice. From merchants' calls to the rhythm of hooves, these sounds weave a melody as vital as any silk. Let's follow Yusuf deeper into the market, where the air hums with the music of trade, and see how this chorus shapes the life and dreams of those who walk its lanes. Yusuf stands in the pulsing heart of the Cairo bazaar, where the air hums with a chorus of commerce that crashes over him like a desert wind. Merchants' chants rise and fall, their voices sharp as they hawk silks, spices, and brass. "Finest dates, sweet as Eden," one bellows, while another's laughter cuts through, sealing a deal with a clap. The haggling is a theater, each shout and jest a note in the market's wild melody. Donkeys bray, their stubborn cries mingling with the clatter of carts and the jingle of coins. Yusuf's ears ring with the chaos, his senses immersed in the bazaar's relentless pulse, yet a spark of delight kindles within him, the noise of vibrant proof of life. Beyond the merchants, musicians add their own rhythm, their lutes plucking sharp, bright notes that dance through the crowd. A drummer's beat thumps like a heartbeat, pulling passers-by into a swaying throng. Nearby, storytellers spin tales of jinns and caliphs, their voices weaving magic that holds children and elders alike spellbound. The crowd leans in, gasps and laughter rippling, as a storyteller's words paint deserts and palaces. Yusuf pauses, caught by the music and tales. The bazaar's soundscape a tapestry as rich as its silks, each sound stitching him deeper into its fabric. Drawn to a corner, Yusuf finds a poet reciting verses, his voice rising like a bird over the din. "O star of the desert, guide my heart," the poet sings, his words heavy with longing, each line a thread of beauty that snags Yusuf's attention. He lingers, his cotton bolt tucked under his arm, and lets the poetry wash over him, its cadence soothing the market's chaos. The poet's eyes meet his, a shared moment of connection, and Yusuf feels the bazaar's energy shift, its noise becoming a celebration of human spirit. The crowd claps, coins dropping into the poet's cap, and Yusuf's delight grows, the verse a fleeting gift amid the clamor. He moves on, a smile tugging at his lips, swept up in the market's rhythm. The shouts, music, and brays blend into a chaotic harmony, each sound a pulse of the bazaar's life. Yusuf's steps lighten, his heart beating in time with the market's song, the noise no longer overwhelming but a source of joy. He's part of this living tapestry, a merchant among many, his own voice ready to join the chorus of trade. The bazaar's clamor is its breath, and Yusuf breathes it deeply, alive with its energy. This vibrant soundscape shapes the bazaar's soul, but its lanes also hum with power beyond trade. The market is a stage where politics and influence weave through every deal, where whispers of sultans and spies mingle with the shouts of merchants. Let's follow Yusuf as he navigates this undercurrent, where the bazaar's chaos hides a deeper game of alliances and ambitions. Yusuf moves through the Cairo bazaar, its lanes alive with the clatter of trade, when his ears catch a hushed murmur about a sultan's decree raising taxes. The air shifts, the market's vibrancy laced with tension, as tax collectors weave through the stalls, their stern faces a reminder of authority. Clad in dark robes, they eye merchant scales, their presence a weight heavier than the sacks of grain they inspect. The bazaar, a coffer fed by trade, fuels the sultan's coffers, and every coin that changes hands carries the shadow of his rule. Yusuf's curiosity sparks, his senses tuned to the whispers that ripple through the crowd, each rumor a thread in the market's hidden tapestry of power. This bazaar is more than a marketplace, it's a political arena where influence and information collide. The muhtasib, the market's overseer, strides through the lanes, his sharp gaze ensuring fair weights and honest deals. His word is law, rooting out fraud or settling disputes with a nod, his authority a bridge between the sultan's decrees and the merchant's daily grind. Yusuf watches him pause at a spice stall, checking a scale with a frown, and the crowd holds its breath, knowing a single ruling could ruin a trader's day. The muhtasib's presence binds the bazaar to the palace, every transaction a pulse in the sultan's domain, and Yusuf feels the weight of eyes watching, always watching. Leaning close to a fellow merchant, Yusuf lowers his voice, his words barely audible over the market's din. "They say the Sultan's planning a new campaign. More taxes to come," he whispers, his eyes darting to ensure no one overhears. The merchant nods, his face tight, and mutters, "Best keep that quiet, Yusuf. Walls have ears." The warning lands like a stone, sharpening Yusuf's curiosity into caution. Spies lurk in the bazaar, disguised as buyers or loiterers, their ears tuned to dissent or secrets that could reach the palace. Every word is a risk, every rumor a gamble, and Yusuf feels the market's pulse quicken with the undercurrent of intrigue. He steps back, his cotton bolt tucked under his arm, his thoughts guarded as he navigates the crowded lanes. The bazaar's vibrancy, its silks, spices, and songs, hides a deeper game where loyalty is weighed as carefully as gold. Yusuf's caution grows, his eyes scanning for unfamiliar faces, his voice stilled to avoid the wrong ears. The tax collectors move on, their coffers heavier, but the tension lingers, a reminder that the bazaar is as much a stage for power as for trade. He keeps his head low, his excitement for the market tempered by the need to stay unseen, unheard, safe. The bazaar's political currents run deep, but another force shapes its soul: faith. The call to prayer echoes through the lanes, binding merchants and buyers in a shared rhythm of devotion. Let's follow Yusuf as he answers this call, stepping into the bazaar's spiritual heart, where mosques and charity weave faith into the fabric of trade. As Yusuf threads through the Cairo bazaar, the muezzin's call to prayer rises, a clear, haunting melody that stills the market's clamor. Stalls fall silent, merchants pause their haggling, and the air shifts, the bazaar becoming a sanctuary of shared belief. Yusuf joins the stream of worshippers heading toward the mosque, his sandals scuffing the dusty ground, his cotton bolt tucked close. The minarets loom above, their shadows blending with the crowd, and the market's pulse slows, its chaos yielding to devotion. Yusuf's heart lifts, a sense of reverence washing over him as he bows his head, the call binding him to every soul in the lanes, from spice sellers to silk traders. Faith weaves through the bazaar's life, shaping its rhythms and rules. Charity, a pillar of belief, pulses in every corner. Zakat donations flow to the poor, merchants setting aside coins as an act of duty and grace. Public fountains, carved with intricate patterns, offer cool water to all, a gift from wealthy traders fulfilling their faith's call. These acts knit the market together, turning strangers into a community under God's gaze. Yusuf passes a fountain, its splash mingling with the murmur of prayers, and feels the weight of this shared obligation, a thread tying the bazaar's wealth to its soul. Near the mosque's entrance, a beggar sits, his hands outstretched, eyes weary but hopeful. Yusuf pauses, fishing a small coin from his pouch, and presses it into the man's palm. "May it ease your day," he murmurs, the act simple but heavy, a gesture that echoes the bazaar's heartbeat of giving. The beggar nods, his whispered thanks blending with the muezzin's fading call, and Yusuf feels a spark of unity, a sense that his small offering binds him to the market's greater purpose. He steps into the mosque, joining the rows of worshippers, their prayers rising like incense, a collective breath that soothes his weary spirit. As prayers end, the bazaar stirs back to life, its lanes buzzing with renewed energy. Merchants' shouts resume, carts creak, and laughter ripples, but the air carries a spiritual charge, as if faith has polished the market's vibrancy. Yusuf steps back into the flow, his cotton bolt under his arm, his heart steadied by the ritual. The bazaar is more than trade. It's a community woven by devotion, where every coin given and prayer offered strengthens its bonds. He moves forward, the market's rhythm now a song of unity, his place within it clear and proud. Faith anchors the bazaar, but its reach stretches far beyond Cairo's lanes. The market is a crossroads of the world, its goods and stories carried by caravans to distant lands, linking Yusuf to a global tapestry of trade. Let's follow him as he navigates this vast network, where spices, silks, and ideas flow, shaping dreams and destinies across empires. Yusuf navigates the Cairo bazaar, its lanes a vibrant pulse where the world converges. A council of nations in cloth. A Persian trader, his turban adorned with a sapphire pin, haggles over silk, his accent sharp with the cadence of Isfahan. Nearby, an Indian merchant arranges bolts of cotton, their patterns bright as monsoon blooms, while a Greek sailor, sun-browned and loud, barters for brass lamps. The air hums with languages, Arabic, Farsi, Tamil, blending with the clatter of carts and the scent of roasting nuts. Yusuf's eyes widen, wonder sparking as he takes in the diversity, each trader a thread in the bazaar's global tapestry, weaving distant lands into Cairo's heart. Beyond goods, the bazaar is a crucible of ideas. Bookstalls, tucked between spice sacks and rug piles, brim with manuscripts, poetry from Baghdad, philosophy from Cordoba, star charts from Samarkand. Scribes copy texts under flickering lamps, their ink spreading knowledge across empires, from the courts of sultans to the halls of scholars. Yusuf pauses at a stall, his fingers grazing a leather-bound volume, its pages whispering of worlds he'll never see. The bazaar doesn't just trade silk or saffron, it trades thoughts. It stalls a crossroads where minds meet, sparking ideas that ripple beyond the desert's edge. Yusuf stops at the Persian trader's stall, drawn by a bolt of silk shimmering like a moonlit river. "This came from Shiraz," the trader says, his voice warm with pride, woven by hands that know the stars. Yusuf smiles, his own Arabic soft but eager. "Does it carry Shiraz's stories?" he asks, and the trader laughs, nodding. "Every thread does." Their brief exchange, a dance of words across borders, binds them in the bazaar's shared rhythm. Yusuf feels the world shrink, Persia no longer a distant dream, but a voice, a fabric, a moment within his reach. As he moves on, his cotton bolt under his arm, Yusuf's chest swells with pride. He's part of this vast web, a merchant in a market that breathes with the pulse of empires. The bazaar is more than Cairo's heart. It's a stage where the world meets, where a Greek's laugh, an Indian's patterns, and a Persian silk weave a single story. He steps lightly, the clamor of languages and scents wrapping around him like a cloak, his place in this global crossroads clear. The traders' faces, their goods, their voices, are proof that he's tethered to something larger, a network that spans seas and sands. The bazaar's global reach shapes its soul, but it's also a place of joy and connection, where social bonds and entertainment flourish. From storytellers spinning tales to dancers drawing crowds, the market is a stage for life's lighter moments. Let's follow Yusuf as he steps into this vibrant social world, where laughter and performance weave through the lanes, binding the bazaar's diverse souls in shared delight. Yusuf slips into a crowded coffee house, its dim interior a stage for laughter and lore, where the air hums with the clink of cups and the murmur of lively debate. Lamplight flickers over weathered tables, casting shadows on faces lit with grins as men sip dark, bitter coffee, its aroma sharp and warm. A lute player strums a lively tune, the notes weaving through the chatter, while the scent of cardamom and roasted beans mingles with the smoke of hookahs. Yusuf finds a corner, his cotton bolt tucked beside him, and lets the energy wash over him, his heart lifting with engagement, drawn into the bazaar's vibrant pulse. Outside, the market thrums as a social hub. Storytellers, or hakawatis, spin tales of desert heroes and cunning jinns, their voices rising over the crowd, pulling children and merchants alike into their spell. Acrobats tumble in a nearby lane, their flips earning gasps and tossed coins, while a dancer sways to a drum's beat, her veils swirling like flames. The bazaar is alive with performance, each act a thread in the community's fabric, binding strangers into a shared moment of joy. Yusuf leans forward, his eyes bright, the coffee house and its stories a warm contrast to the road's solitude. A Hakawati in the corner gestures wildly, his tale of a thief outwitting a greedy vizier sparking laughter through the room. Yusuf joins in, his chuckle blending with the crowd's, the story's humor a spark that lights his spirit. "And the vizier thought he'd won," the Hakawati cries, his voice rich with mischief. and Yusuf claps, caught in the tale's delight. The moment feels like a gift, the laughter a bridge between him and the strangers around him, their shared mirth knitting them into Cairo's beating heart. The coffee house, with its music and stories, is a haven where the bazaar's chaos finds harmony. As the tale ends, Yusuf sips his coffee, its warmth grounding him in the moment. The bazaar's pulse, its shouts, songs, and laughter, flows through the coffee house, and he feels a deep sense of belonging, as if the city itself has claimed him. The faces around him, from weathered traders to young apprentices, reflect his own joy, their voices a chorus that sings of home. He lingers, reluctant to leave, the coffee house a microcosm of the bazaar spirit, where every story and note strengthens the bonds of community. The bazaar's role as a social stage weaves its people together, but its legacy stretches beyond Cairo's lanes, shaping trade, culture, and connection across time. From spices to stories, its influence endures, a vibrant thread in the tapestry of human history. Let's follow Yusuf as he steps back into the market, carrying its lessons, and explore how the bazaar's spirit lives on in markets and minds, far beyond its dusty paths. As Yusuf steps from the coffee house into the fading light of the Cairo bazaar, the market's pulse lingers in his chest, a vibrant echo of its enduring legacy. This labyrinth of stalls, brimming with spices, silks, and stories, is more than a marketplace. It's a loom weaving worlds together, stitching cultures and commerce into a tapestry that spans centuries. From Cairo's dusty lanes to the courts of distant empires, the bazaar has shaped trade, carrying saffron from Persia, silk from China, and ideas from every corner of the earth. Its clamor of haggling, its sense of cumin and coffee, have fueled economies and sparked connections, making it a crucible where human ambition and ingenuity meet. The bazaar's influence stretches far beyond its walls, seeding modern markets from Istanbul's Grand Bazaar to the digital stalls of online trade. Its spirit lives in the hum of negotiation, the exchange of goods and tales that define commerce today. The book stalls that shared poetry across empires echo in libraries and websites, while the charity of zakat finds kin in modern acts of giving. Yusuf, a small thread in this vast weave, feels the weight of this history, the bazaar's rhythm pulsing through time, linking his daily trades to a global story. Its legacy is not just in goods, but in the human drive to connect, to barter, to dream. Yusuf pauses, his cotton bolt and a small pouch of saffron tucked under his arm, and reflects in the quiet of his mind. I'm part of this, he thinks, his heart swelling with pride. This market, these voices, they carry the world's heartbeat, and I'm one of its beats. The thought fills him with inspiration, a sense that his work, however small, binds him to a legacy larger than himself. The bazaar has taught him resilience, the art of the deal, the value of a shared laugh over coffee. He sees himself not just as a merchant, but as a keeper of stories, a thread in the tapestry that stretches from Cairo to the stars. He walks home, the bazaar's noise fading behind him, the spice pouch a warm weight in his hand. New stories of poets, traders, and far-off lands dance in his mind, gifts from the market's endless pulse. The streets grow quiet, but Yusuf carries the bazaar's energy, its scents and sounds woven into his spirit. He steps forward, inspired, ready to return tomorrow to its chaotic embrace, knowing he's part of something eternal. The saffron's scent lingers, a reminder of the world he's touched, and his heart hums with the promise of another day's trade. The bazaar's legacy, like a river, flows through time, shaping markets and minds, but its lessons echo beyond trade, touching lives across eras and empires. Let's step back to reflect on how this vibrant world, alongside Tudor England's rigid splendor, reveals the human spirit, its drive to survive, to create, to connect. From Eadric's muddy road to Yusuf's bustling lanes, these stories weave a shared thread of resilience and ambition. Eadric's muddy road and Yusuf's bustling bazaar, though worlds apart, are bound by the thread of human resilience, each step a testament to the will to endure. Eadric, a weary peasant, trudged through fields and forests, his bare feet scarred but his spirit unbroken, finding shelter in barns, shrines, and strangers' hearths. Yusuf, a merchant of Cairo, wove through stalls of spice and silk, his heart lifted by the market's pulse, his trades a dance of connection across empires. Both faced uncertainty, Eadric's cold nights, Yusuf's political whispers, yet both pressed forward, driven by necessity and hope. Their stories, one of survival, the other of thriving, reflect the same human spark. The drive to carve a place in a world that offers no promises. Kindness, fleeting but fierce, lit their paths. A widow's stew warmed Eadric's bones. A beggar's thanks steadied Yusuf's soul. Strangers, from farmers to merchants, offered scraps of charity, broth, a coin, a moment of laughter, that stitched their worlds together. Community, whether in a village's familiar grind or a bazaar's chaotic harmony, gave them strength. Eadric found solace in shared prayers at a hostel, Yusuf in the shared rhythm of a coffeehouse tale. These acts, small but vital, reveal a truth. Even in hardship, humanity builds bridges, offering warmth where there's cold, connection where there's isolation. What do we carry from their world into ours? Eadric's resolve, facing wolves and frost with only a stick, mirrors our own battles against modern uncertainties. Yusuf's pride in the bazaar's global web echoes in our digital age, where ideas and goods cross borders in an instant. Their lives, though distant, whisper lessons of grit and generosity, urging us to find strength in struggle and to offer kindness when we can. The road and the market, though centuries past, live in our own networks, of trade, of stories, of shared hopes that bind us across time. As we walk our own paths, let's hold fast to the hope their stories kindle. Eadric's survival, Yusuf's delight in a poet's verse. These are sparks of the human spirit, undimmed by time. We're connected to them, to each other, through the small acts that make life bearable, a shared meal, a laugh, a helping hand. Their world, harsh yet vibrant, inspires us to cherish modern connections, friends, markets, communities, and to face our challenges with the same stubborn heart. Let's carry their lessons forward, building bridges where we find divides, and finding joy in the chaos of our own bazaars. Eadric and Yusuf's tales offer timeless wisdom, but Tudor England's fashion holds its own final lessons, where cloth and color shaped a world as rigid as any road or market. Let's return to Thomas, standing in the shadow of velvet and pearls, and explore how his era's splendor teaches us to navigate the hierarchies and dreams of our own time. Thomas stands at the edge of a Tudor market, his eyes tracing the lines of a noble's velvet doublet, its slashes revealing silk as bright as a summer dawn. In this world, fashion is no mere adornment. It's a chain, binding each soul to their place in a hierarchy as unyielding as stone. From purple cloaks reserved for royalty to the coarse wool of Thomas's tunic, every garment enforces identity, proclaiming who bows and who commands. The realization settles over him, heavy as the sumptuary laws that guard these rules, ensuring a peasant like him dares not wear crimson or pearls. Yet there's a strange clarity in this order, a map of power woven into cloth that shapes the court and street alike. Queen Elizabeth I, the era's master weaver, wields fashion as a mantle of majesty. Her gowns, heavy with pearls and embroidered with suns, transform her into a living emblem of divine rule. Each ruff, each jeweled hem, is a calculated choice, dazzling envoys and silencing rivals with splendor. Thomas has heard tales of her appearances, her presence so commanding that even rebels pause in awe. Her wardrobe is a battlefield, each stitch a strategy to hold her throne, proving that cloth can be as mighty as steel. The nobles Thomas watches mimic her, their slashed sleeves and feathered hats echoing her grandeur, reinforcing a system where appearance is power. Leaning against a stall, Thomas turns to a friend, a fellow laborer named John, and gestures at a passing lord's glittering cloak. "See that velvet? It's worth more than our year's wages, he says, his voice low but sharp. John snorts, adjusting his own frayed cap. Aye, and if we tried it on, we'd be flogged by sundown. Their laughter is wry, a shared acknowledgement of the barriers cloth creates. Yet the exchange grounds Thomas, the spectacle of fashion no longer just a taunt, but a lesson in the world's workings, a stage he can observe even if he'll never tread it. Thomas touches his rough tunic, its gray wool a badge of his place, and feels acceptance settle like dust. He'll never wear silk or strut in a court, but the pageantry of Tudor fashion inspires him, its bold colors and textures a reminder of humanity's drive to create beauty, even in a rigid world. He's part of this story, if only as a witness, and that role carries its own quiet dignity. The market hums around him, and he steps forward, his realization tempered by a newfound respect for the artistry that shapes his era. Tudor fashion's rigid splendor mirrors the vibrant chaos of the Arab bazaar, where silks and spices weave a different kind of cultural power. Both worlds, Thomas's structured courts and Yusuf's bustling lanes, use display to shape identity, connecting people through trade and tradition. Let's bridge these realms, exploring how their lessons of resilience and spectacle echo in the human drive to craft meaning from cloth and commerce. The Tudor court and the Cairo bazaar, though worlds apart, stand as twin mirrors of human ambition, each reflecting identity and power through the language of material culture. In Thomas's England, fashion wove a rigid hierarchy, where purple cloaks and jeweled ruffs marked nobles as untouchable, their splendor a barrier as firm as castle walls. In Yusuf's bazaar, vibrant exchange ruled, silks and spices flowing like rivers, each stall a stage for trade and connection. Both worlds used their treasures, cloth for one, commerce for the other, to declare who belonged and who stood outside, their displays a map of status, etched in velvet or saffron. Tudor fashion shaped identity through strict ritual, sumptuary laws ensuring every thread aligned with rank, while Elizabeth I's pearl-strewn gowns cast her as a divine ruler. The bazaar, too, was a ritual space, its haggling and prayers weaving community, from the muezzin's call to the zakat coins given to beggars. Both crafted belonging through performance, courtiers strutting in slashed sleeves, merchants boasting of Persian silk, each act a declaration of place and purpose. Cloth and spices, threads of human ambition, wove these worlds together, their displays a universal language of pride and survival, binding Thomas's awe to Yusuf's delight in a shared dance of meaning. Yet their differences sharpen the parallel. Tudor fashion enforced order, its colors and fabrics a chain of control, while the bazaar's chaos embraced diversity, its lanes a crossroads of empires. Where Thomas felt the sting of exclusion, Yusuf found unity in the market's pulse. Still, both worlds turn material into power, whether through a noble's velvet or a trader's saffron, each item a story of labor and longing. Their rituals, courtly pageantry or market haggling, celebrated human creativity, turning cloth and spice into emblems of identity that resonated across borders and time. This shared legacy lives on, echoing in modern culture's love of display. Today's fashion runways, with their bold cuts, owe a debt to Tudor roughs, while global markets online or in city squares pulse with the bazaar's spirit of exchange. We still weave identity through what we wear and trade, from designer labels to artisanal goods, each choice a nod to the ambition that drove Thomas and Yusuf. Their worlds, though distant, remind us that material culture, whether a gown or a spice pouch, carries our stories, our struggles, our dreams. The bazaar and the court, through their vibrant displays, reveal the human heart's ceaseless drive to create and connect. Let's step back for a final reflection, weaving together Eadric's journey, Thomas's awe, and Yusuf's trade to see how their stories, rooted in survival, spectacle, and community, offer timeless lessons for our own paths, where we too seek meaning in the things we make and share. The Tudor court and the Cairo bazaar, though worlds apart, stand as twin mirrors of human ambition, each reflecting identity and power through the language of material culture. In Thomas's England, fashion wove a rigid hierarchy, where purple cloaks and jeweled ruffs marked nobles as untouchable, their splendor a barrier as firm as castle walls. In Yusuf's bazaar, vibrant exchange ruled, silks and spices flowing like rivers, each stall a stage for trade and connection. Both worlds used their treasures, cloth for one, commerce for the other, to declare who belonged and who stood outside. Their displays a map of status etched in velvet or saffron. Tudor fashion shaped identity through strict ritual, sumptuary laws ensuring every thread aligned with rank, while Elizabeth Thuren's pearl-strewn gowns cast her as a divine ruler. The bazaar, too, was a ritual space, its haggling and prayers weaving community, from the muezzin's call to the zakat coins given to beggars. Both crafted belonging through performance, courtiers strutting in slashed sleeves, merchants boasting of Persian silk, each act a declaration of place and purpose. Cloth and spices, threads of human ambition, wove these worlds together, their displays a universal language of pride and survival, binding Thomas's awe to Yusuf's delight in a shared dance of meaning. Yet their differences sharpen the parallel. Tudor fashion enforced order, its colors and fabrics a chain of control, while the bazaar's chaos embraced diversity, its lanes a crossroads of empires. Where Thomas felt the sting of exclusion, Yusuf found unity in the market's pulse. Still, both worlds turned material into power, whether through a noble's velvet or a trader's saffron, each item a story of labor and longing. Their rituals, courtly pageantry or market haggling, celebrated human creativity, turning cloth and spice into emblems of identity that resonated across borders and time. This shared legacy lives on, echoing in modern culture's love of display. Today's fashion runways, with their bold cuts, owe a debt to Tudor ruffs, while global markets, online or in city squares, pulse with the bazaar spirit of exchange. We still weave identity through what we wear and trade, from designer labels to artisanal goods, each choice a nod to the ambition that drove Thomas and Yusuf. Their worlds, though distant, remind us that material culture, whether a gown or a spice pouch, carries our stories, our struggles, our dreams. The bazaar and the court, through their vibrant displays, reveal the human heart's ceaseless drive to create and connect. Let's step back for a final reflection, weaving together Eadric's journey, Thomas's awe, and Yusuf's trade to see how their stories, rooted in survival, spectacle, and community, offer timeless lessons for our own paths, where we too seek meaning in the things we make and share. Eadric, Thomas, and Yusuf, separated by time and place, tread paths that weave a timeless dance of survival and display, their stories threading through the human heart. Eadric, a medieval wanderer, limped along muddy roads, his bare feet blistered but his resolve unbroken, finding shelter in barns, shrines, and the rare kindness of strangers. Thomas, in Tudor England's rigid courts, gazed at velvet cloaks and jeweled ruffs, his awe for their splendor tempered by the weight of his own coarse wool. Yusuf, amidst Cairo's bustling bazaar, bartered for saffron and silk, his spirit lifted by the market's vibrant pulse. Each faced their world's trials, cold, hierarchy, intrigue, yet carried forward, driven by a spark that binds them across centuries, the will to endure and to carve meaning from chaos. Their journeys reveal the human drive to survive and express, whether through hardship or beauty. Eadric's nights in fields and stables, warmed by goats or faith, speak of resilience, a refusal to break under the road's weight. Thomas's longing for forbidden silks, constrained by laws, mirrors the universal ache to rise above one's place, to touch beauty even from afar. Yusuf's haggling and laughter in the bazaar's chaos reflect a joy in connection, turning trade into a celebration of shared humanity. From muddy roads to silken stalls, we weave our stories, each struggle and triumph a thread in a tapestry that stretches from past to present, binding us in the endless quest for belonging and purpose. Their worlds, Eadric's desolate paths, Thomas's glittering courts, Yusuf's fragrant lanes, show how we shape identity through what we endure and create. A widow's stew, a pearl-strewn gown, a poet's verse. These are the tools of survival and display, as vital then as now. We too face our roads, whether in concrete cities or digital markets, crafting meaning through the clothes we wear, the goods we trade, the stories we tell. Their lives ask us to look inward. What shelters do we seek? What beauties do we chase? What communities do we build? Their resilience and creativity inspire us to find our own strength, to see our struggles as threads in a larger weave. As Eadric's stick tapped the earth, Thomas's hand grazed wool, and Yusuf's fingers held saffron. They wove tales that echo in us. Step into your own story, reader, and seek the lessons hidden in the past. Resilience from a peasant's journey, aspiration from a court's splendor, connection from a market's hum. From their worlds to ours, the dance continues, urging us to endure, to create, to connect. Find your road, your rough, your spice stall, and weave your story with the same stubborn heart, knowing that in survival and display, we all share the timeless human pulse. This tale ends here, its threads spun from Eadric's steps to Yusuf's trades, from Tudor velvet to bazaar silks. Let their stories linger, inspiring us to craft our own, in a world where every choice, be it cloth, coin, or kindness, is a step in the dance of who we are and who we hope to become.